Okay, good morning. We're going to get ready to get started. I know we have a little bit of a delayed start. We wanted to make sure all the cameras were working, so just FYI, this meeting is being broadcast all over the state, all over the nation, actually. And so anyone with the link will be able to see us have this very great discussion here today. You all should have a blue folder. Inside of the folder, you have an agenda and some other things that we will discuss today. But I will start us off with introductions. My name is Dakota Doman. I serve as the Director of College Completion here at the Coordinating Board. And I will also serve as the administrative point of contact for this particular council as well. I'm very excited about you all being here and the work that we're going to do together. And so we're going to start off with introductions, and we'll go all the way down to Agatha, and we'll come across, and then we'll go down to the table, and then we will allow any individuals on the phone as well to introduce themselves as well. Yes.
Good morning. My name is Agatha Thibodeau. I am the current chair of the Continuing Advisory Committee for Special Education, and also am a parent of a 12-year-old with autism. I am not actually officially on the committee. I have just come to take notes for the person that will be appointed from the CAC. Thank you.
My name is Jennifer Martinez. I'm the CEO of the ARC of Texas.
My name is Christine Price, and I'm the director of the STEPS program at Austin Community College.
Hello, I'm Jennifer Alexander. I'm the Associate Commissioner of Special Populations and Monitoring with the Texas Education Agency.
My name is Amy Sharp. I'm the director of the Texas Center for Disability Studies at UT.
Hello, my name is Linda Litzinger. I'm with Texas Parent to Parent. I'm a parent of a daughter born with quadriplegia and succeeded in grad school.
Yes, good morning. I'm Sue Maraska, and I'm the director of Houston Community College FAST Academy.
Hi, my name is Jolene Sanders. I'm the mother of a 15-year-old with autism, and I'm the director of advocacy and public policy at Easter Seals.
My name is Jennifer Hines, and I am the State Neurodevelopmental Specialist for Texas Workforce Commission.
Hi, my name is Robert Bazooka. I'm a graduate of Texas Tech.
Good morning. I'm Deanne Litzenberger from Texas Tech University. I'm the program director for the CASE program that stands for Connections for Academic Success and Employment, and I'm glad to be here.
Hello, my name is Rhett Calvert. I am an undergraduate for computer science at Texas Tech University, and I am diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome.
Good morning. My name is Dalun Zhang. I'm a director of the Center on Disability and Development at Texas A&M University.
Hi, I'm Beth Stalvey. I'm the executive director at the Texas Council for Developmental Disabilities.
Hi, good morning. My name is Leanne Godinez. I'm a vocational rehabilitation supervisor with Texas Workforce Commission from McAllen, Texas.
Good morning. My name is DJ Puente, and I'm studying graphic arts at South Texas College in McAllen, Texas.
Thank you all for that introduction. Do we have anyone on the line who would like to introduce themselves at this time? Asking Deanne.
Everybody might be waiting for someone else to start, but this is Kate Weir. I'll be speaking to you later. I'm the director of the Think College National Coordinating Center.
Hi, my name is Jana McLean. I'm the at-risk counselor at Humble ISD's Community Learning Center.
Awesome. Those are the two callers that we have on. I've been instructed to make sure that I tell the callers on the line, do not put your phones on hold and to keep it muted unless talking, because if not, we'll be able to hear everything, of course. And then once you begin to speak, please make sure that you identify yourselves as well. So thank you all for joining us. And as you all can tell, we have us 100% quorum. So I think that that's very fantastic. And again, thank you all for joining us here on today. The next thing we want to talk a little bit about is the purpose of us and how did we come to be here. So I will ask if you may put up the slides that I provided for the Senate Bill 1017. No. I think it's the one with my USB drive.
Dakota, this is Kate. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
okay.
Did you say the link would be on the top of your webpage so that we can see what people in the room are seeing? Or?
Yes, if you go to our website, there will be a link saying that this particular meeting is in broadcast.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not seeing that quite yet, but I'll keep waiting.
Okay, as soon as I get a chance here, I'll make sure that I send you a link.
I'm so sorry. I know you're doing a million things. But
oh, no, that's okay. We'll make it work.
Thank you.
Thank you all for being here.
All right. Thank you, Dakota.
Okay. So as you can see on the screen here, we are all here as a result of Senate Bill 1017, which directs us to form a advisory council on post-secondary education for persons with intellectual and developmental disabilities, IDD. And there are a couple things as a result of this bill that we will all have to do as a council. And as I look around and I hear about the particular things that you all have in terms of your expertise, I know that you will be able to accomplish the things that we have been asked to do. And so just so that everyone knows, I wanted to make 100% sure that we're all clear on the things that we are asked to do as a council, right? And so first, we are tasked with developing educational outreach materials to raise awareness in Texas post-secondary education. Next thing we're asked to do is study the accessibility of higher education for individuals with IDD and create recommendations on how to remove all of those particular barriers. And then essentially the third thing that we would be asked to do is highlight any information gaps that we may not have, and there are some gaps that need to be addressed. And you will hear a little bit more about those particular gaps when Melissa Humphreys from SPF gives her particular presentation. Can you advance slide? Thank you. I want to point out the specific things in the bill, again, that we are going to be asked to do, and just to make sure that we stay on track on doing those particular things. So Section 1B requires the coordinating board to update the inventory of all post-secondary educational programs on a yearly basis. Currently, we do that every other year. And so now we're going to be doing it every year. And of course, we will ask all of you who are at a particular institution to ensure that you get us all of the things that you all do so that we can add that to the inventory. Section 2B establishes the IDD Advisory Council. Here we are, so we can put a check mark next to that one. We have done that one, thank you. Section 2D provides that the members serve at least a 2-year term on the Advisory Council. And so when I call you back on Monday, I don't want you to think, hey, I went to that meeting on Friday, I thought I was done with Dakota. You are committing to me now for 2 years, and I wanted to make sure that everyone understood that. All right. Section 2F requires each of the members of the advisory council to elect a presiding officer amongst the membership. So that presiding officer will not be me, it will be amongst your peers. I am very excited about that as well, because I will work very closely with that individual to make sure that the work of the council is going appropriate. And so actually after I complete doing all of the things that we have to do, the very next thing we would do is elect almost like in terms of a chairperson amongst you all, right? And so if you have an interest, then I will advise you all to go ahead and speak up. If not, I will appoint someone. No, I'm kidding, I can't appoint anyone. But I will strongly encourage us to make sure that we do that, okay? Advance slide. Section 2G1. Again, we have to study the accessibility of higher education for persons with IDD. There's a lot of different ways we can do that. We can do that in terms of those who actually attend an institution or a community college or even a certificate program. Of course, we can desegregate that out. We can determine their particular success as well in terms of the retention and the persistence and the completion. So there's a lot of different ways that we can do that. It'll be up to you all to say exactly how. Section 2G2, we want to provide advice regarding resolving the barriers to access higher education. Okay, as we all know, there exists a myriad of barriers. If we try to tackle all of them, our 2-year commitment would probably run long, but I know that there are a lot that we can address in the time frame that we have. Section 2G3, we want to identify, evaluate, and develop recommendations to address the barriers for those individuals who have also been in the foster care system as well, right? And so not only will we look at the individuals with IDD, we also want to look at those individuals with IDD who may have been inside of the foster care system as well. And then Section 2H, we meet at least quarterly at the call of the presiding officer. And so again, you can see that the individual who will serve as the presiding officer will have a lot of leadership in terms of ensuring that this particular body of individuals routinely convene. And we don't always have to come to Austin to do that. I like to look at all of you all, so please, if that's what we decide to do, then great, but as well, we can meet over the phone as well. You can advance, that may be the last. Nope, there's more. Section 2J, this also requires the advisory council to submit a report to the coordinating board annually at a time that is determined by us as a coordinating board. This slide right here is very, very important, actually, and it may have been a particular Freudian slip as the reason I almost forgot to include it. And so Section 2K requires you all, as an advisory council, no later than December 1 of each numbered year. Pop quiz, is this year a even numbered year? Yes, it is. So what does that mean? That means that we have a report due. Yes, exactly. Good job. This is an intelligent group. I feel good about it. So by December 1 of this year, we are going to have to submit a report to the governor, the lieutenant governor, the speaker of the House of Representatives, and members of the legislature and other stakeholders. In this report, we're going to do the things that we said we would do in terms of studying the accessibility, being able to make recommendations, all of those things. And we're not going to wait until December 1, right? We're gonna have this thing done long before then, I'm sure. Section 2L requires the coordinating board to provide administrative support to the advisory council. And so that's where I come in and other individuals who are here inside the coordinating board as well, Ms. Horn and Ms. Foose and Mr. Matoyer, who you cannot see as of right now. Section 3B requires the advisory council no later than December 1 to complete the initial report. And so again, when we meet quarterly, we're gonna discuss different things, but obviously in order for us to have a report completed in a timely fashion, we're not going to be able to only do the work when we convene, right? There's going to be a lot of work done through emails, through phone calls, through text messages, through voicemails, all of those things as well. And so we are not going to be able to rely on the space here to do the majority of our work, okay? And that is the last slide. All right. So before we move on, are there any questions or concerns about the roles of the advisory council? This would be a great time to have that particular discussion. Yes, please. You want to access your mic so you can hear you on the broadcast. Perfect.
What door do we go out of if we need to use the facilities?
Yes, great question.
Okay.
So you can exit through this door
Okay.
and turn left, and
Okay.
the facilities will be on your right in
Okay.
the middle of the hall.
Okay. Also, since our audience is so small, can we hear who they are, please?
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, that'll be fine with me. There is a request to introduce the individuals in the room as well, and so I will allow you all to make your own introductions. That's it all. Thank you all for being here with us. Thank you, Linda. Are there any other questions, again, about the roles of our advisory council? Again, the work that you all are going to be doing will be very, very important for the state of higher education in the state of, so it's going to be very important. Is there any other questions at all before we move on to the next order, which would be to elect the chairperson? No other discussion? Okay, excellent. So, as I briefly mentioned, the chairperson will be the presiding officer of this council. That individual will work in conjunction with the coordinating board to make sure we meet quarterly and to ensure that we are carrying out the mission of Senate Bill 1017. Which is, of course, to do the report and to make sure everyone stays on track. This individual will also have the latitude to create subcommittees and make various appointments within the council as they see fit. Again, we are all going to be in this for a 2-year commitment, and so this individual will essentially serve as the president in a sense to make sure that all of the business of the council runs smoothly and that we can produce a product that we are all very proud of. And not only that, but to ensure that we produce a product that is going to be very effective for this particular population of persons as well. And so it is a very important job. The job that I will have is to support this individual by whatever means that I can. And so I am excited to see who is interested in holding such a prestigious position. And again, just like the membership, this individual will serve a 2-year term as well. So if you don't like the person who becomes the chairperson, we are, for a lack of better words, be stuck with that person for the duration of the advisory council. And so I will open it up for nominations, and you can feel free to nominate yourself as well.
This is Deanne Litzenberger, and I would be interested in that position.
Deanne nominates herself. Awesome.
This is Linda Litzinger. If Agatha would be interested, I would be nominating her.
I don't think I'm going to be eligible for that.
Okay.
Because I'm just kind of sitting in. I didn't.
Until then, okay.
Yeah. But thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes.
This is Amy Sharp, and I would nominate Dr. Zhang if he would accept the nomination.
Dr. Zhang, is that smile in acceptance?
Thank you, Dr. Sharp. I think I'll decline. Thank you for nominating me. But I think Dr. Sharp is a better person because she resides here and I'm far away. So I will nominate Dr. Sharp.
So Dr. Zhang nominates Dr. Sharp. Do you accept Dr. Sharp?
I do not.
This is Christine Price, and I nominate Susan Moraska.
I would love to accept that. I'm in Houston, and I think, and also I highly feel that Deanne would be awesome. So thank you. Oh.
Yes, thank you. I decline. Thank you.
I have to take the minutes, so I'm trying to get all of the volleying that is happening right now. Okay. We have one nomination as of now. I am still looking around the room like that school teacher to just, if we are completely okay with the one nomination, we will move forward, but I want to ensure that everyone has ample opportunity to allow themselves to be the chairperson as well. So I will hold just for a couple more moments. Yes, is there anyone on the phone as well? And again, this is a person who I will work with in person, over the phone, via email, whatever the case may be. So I don't want anyone to feel geographically as if they can't go ahead and participate. I will come to Houston. I am originally from Houston. I'll go to Lubbock. I graduated from Texas Tech. So I can go all over the place, as long as the travel budget allows.
I will also mention that I live in Georgetown, so I am local, but I travel back and forth to Lubbock, so you may not have to go to lovely Lubbock unless you just really want to.
Okay. Thank you for that, Deanne. So no other nominations at this time? Okay, well, Deanne, it looks like we have ourselves a presiding officer.
By default.
I would have nominated you.
You know, I just don't think anyone wanted to work with me, Dan. I think that's what it is. No. At this time, I wanted to allow whoever that individual would be, which now we know it is Deanne, to tell us a little bit more about themselves and why they are interested in the position and all of those things, as you will.
Okay. My name is Deanne Litzenberger, as I mentioned. I've been a public school teacher for 17 years. Have been at the university level for, gosh, almost 20. And the reason I'm interested is just because this is an area that's near and dear to my heart. When I first started teaching, I was just on the cusp of when 94-142, or what we currently know as IDEA, was being put together. And I see higher ed, quite honestly, as the next bastion that we need to storm the hill for to make it fully inclusive. I've learned a lot. I learned a lot from these two gentlemen sitting on either side of me. Our students are our best teachers. And I want to be able to see that more and more colleges have the opportunity to build programs that help support students with disabilities regardless of their abilities. And I want them to also be able to look at them in a strengths-based way. That's how our program is set up. The other thing I want to give a shout out to is Sue and I were among the group that originally started pushing for this legislation. And Gerard Jimenez, I want to put his name in the record as having been closely related to it as well, so that it's really neat to see that people do listen to your voice at the legislative level as well as at the state agency level. So I just want to encourage everyone to be very forthright and very straightforward. I'm a pretty straightforward person, so what you see is what you get. If you don't like me, talk to Drew, and he'll try to make you feel better about it. But anyway, I'm thrilled to do this. I'm excited to see the progress that Texas is making, and I look forward to working with each of you.
Well, thank you. I think that deserves a round of applause for your adamancy to serve. Thank you so much. And again, this individual, now I don't want you all to look at her saying, well, she's going to be the one to do all of the work. That cannot be. We will not be as successful as we possibly can. So, of course, she will have the latitude to make different appointments in different committees as well to make sure that we advance the work together. And so this is going to be a shared governance thing that we have to make sure that we all are going to be as successful as we possibly can, because I'm very excited about this group. So again, thank you all for being here, of course, and thank you as well, Madam Chair. So next on the agenda, we have a data presentation by the coordinating board, and that is going to be done by Melissa Humphreys. I will allow her to come in her own way, but I'm very thrilled about the work that she does in her office, and perhaps she will be able to share with us a lot of things that we did not know, and perhaps she will also be able to contextualize some things that we do know. And so at this time, I will turn it over to Melissa. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for letting me talk today, Dakota. I will say I started working on some of these data collection efforts in 2015, and some of you in the room were involved in that after, I think it was SB 37, HB 1807 passed in that legislative session in 2015. We began trying to start collecting some data with the hope that if we have the data, if there are inequities, that's something we can stand behind and present. So that's what I'm going to present to you today, is what we have currently here at the coordinating board, what data we're collecting, what surveys we have, with the hope that with this group here today, you can help us either tweak it some, change it. Really, we are looking to you all and your expertise to help us know what the best way to collect this data would be. Yes.
Dakota, are we going to have access to these presentations somewhere?
Yes, you will.
So let me start. So we have 3 initiatives going on right now for data collection having to do with students in post-secondary education with an IDD. So first is data collected on our coordinating board management report. So we just call them CBM for short, and I'll explain a little more what that is. But this is the more quantitative data that we get. We get it from every institution in the state, all public institutions, for every semester. This is new. It was added fall 2016 after we got, that started after the 84th legislative session. The other thing we were required to do that is to start doing some reports of outcomes of students who are identified in our CBM system as having an IDD, and I'll go over that a little more later. Secondly, we do a survey of programs for students with IDD, and this right now is an online portal that our Academic Quality and Workforce Division is head of. I'll show you the details of that later. Actually, I think I printed out the actual questions that are asked on that. It's in your little packets. So when we go through that, you'll actually be able to see what we are collecting, and that is posted publicly on our website. And then the third is a recruitment survey. So when institutions log in to put in information about their programs and services, there's a question that says, are you actively recruiting students with intellectual or developmental disabilities? And if they say yes, they get a questionnaire. That is also in your packet. And so now I'm going to go over each one of these a little more in detail. And as I'm going through, please be thinking about what we have now, or if there's any tweaks that we could do that could help you for the report, or the things that you're required to put in the report. Because that's really what I'm here for, is to support the data and research for this. Yes.
As you go through these, can you let us know at some point if private colleges who accept federal and local funds are part of any of these programs?
So we do not collect any information on this from the private institutions in Texas. So that's something we do not have. This is only the public four-year institutions and community college. but it's a very good question. Any other questions before I start? And feel free to ask questions as I go. I do feel like questions are best asked when you have them. So first I want to explain our CBM data. So this is the Coordinating Board Management reports that we get from every public institution in the state and every semester. So it's information for undergraduate students, for graduate students. We get it for academic courses, technical courses, but also continuing education. So we have 3 reports where we are collecting enrollment information. We also collect a lot of information about student demographics. We have all course taking information for students who are taking academic or technical courses, and graduation information. We're also able to link with a partnership with the Texas Workforce Commission. We can link our data with employment and licensure data. So that's something else we have been asked to do in the past with SB 37. However, and you'll see the numbers in a second, but we haven't had a high enough number of students yet to be able to track too far out without violating FERPA. So as the semesters go on and we get more information and institutions are reporting better, our hope is that we'll be able to dive in a little deeper about outcomes. So this is tiny, I apologize, but in your packet on the first, I think it's the first thing, it's Rule 4.12, I think. Within that, on the second or third page, these items are in there if you want to look at them in particular. But I wanted to go over the exact question that is on the report that institutions give us this information. So for every student they report as enrolled, they are required to mark one of these choices for that student. So the student is not identified as having an IDD, the student is identified as having an IDD, or the student is identified as having an autism spectrum disorder, but not an intellectual or an intellectual disability. So when we began this work, we realized we don't have the expertise within our agency, so we did convene a group of folks who, of experts, advocates in Texas who helped us come up with some of this and helped us kind of understand what the intent was behind. And part of what we learned was that one of the questions that the legislators had and advocates had was specifically autism spectrum disorder, students with autism spectrum disorder. And so that's why it was separated out. That was separated out after we met with folks from the community. And I will say these are mutually exclusive. So for every student who is in our system, only one of these options can be marked. So let me bring us back to we had to define what IDD was, because in the past, there's no other part of our reporting where the reporting officials were required in any way to coordinate with the Office of Disability Services, where this information would be. So we worked really hard to come up with clear definitions, but also to advise schools and especially the reporting officials how to share this data safely. And for good reason, we got lots of good questions from Offices of Disability Services, like, how do we make sure this is not being used in a way that's not allowable? We want to make sure we follow HIPAA. And because this is just one indicator, we're not asking about what services a student received. We got lots of legal advice about this. So what we talked about was, as long as there is a secure way to move data, this indicator, between the Office of Disability Services to the reporting people. Some schools have set up their own reporting within Office of Disability Services, so they enter it in and it shows up on the reporting folks' screen. So I feel the schools where I've talked to, they've been really good about this. You know, they've been trying really hard to make sure that this is not violating anything, that their data is safe. So if you look at the definition I gave you, we met with stakeholders. We did not make this up on our own. We are not trying to get data officials or faculty or anyone to diagnose a student. That is not what this is about. This is for students who have already identified themselves to the Office of Disability Services. So we started with the DSM-5 definition of intellectual disability, and then with advice from the group we were working with, kind of made it a little more general, less prescriptive, and pulled out separately autism spectrum disorder. So that's where it stands now. I do want to say that this rule is there, and I'm so happy to have an official group of experts that is part of our agency now, and as we would love to hear your feedback on this, and I know you may have ideas for how to write this better, and we're happy to hear that. So don't feel like this is where it ends. If you have any ideas about that, I'm happy to talk with you. But this is where it is right now. Just wanted to let you know how it looks now when schools are reporting this data to us. Yes.
So we would be able to like suggest that, you know, when you say developmental disorder per the DSM, we're leaving out ADHD and learning disabilities, specific learning disabilities.
Yes, and we were, so when we talked to, so it was Senator Zaffirini who passed these first two bills that we were following, and the intent, after talking to her office, the intent was actually to focus on students with intellectual disorders and autism spectrum disorder, not including ADHD learning disabilities.
I guess my concern when just focusing on autism, when you put IDD and autism together, it's like you're saying that with autism comes IDD, and that is not the case.
That's why we separated out in the question, actually. So there is an option for autism spectrum disorder without an IDD.
Currently, though, with employment, ADHD and LD have a lower successful rate right now than autism, which is, we worked really hard on autism, but right now there's a subgroup that is really struggling.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be something to talk about here. This was, these were made as a result of SB 37 in the 84th legislative session, and so that's what we were following then, but
I didn't know
this
if that
is
was
what you all hear.
is an option to.
You know, I don't know. I'll check, because in the bill that was passed, it was specific to say intellectual and developmental disabilities, and then so I'll see with our legal. I mean, if it's something that we can expand.
Because per the DSM-5, those are under there. When you
Under
say
intellectual disability?
Under developmental, because our board says developmental disabilities, just intellectual and developmental. So that's why I don't mean to harp on that, but I'm just saying there's a big subset under developmental.
Absolutely. Yeah. So this is something we can talk about, and I on my end I can talk to our folks in legal to make sure this is something we could think about. Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
This is Deanne Litzenberger. Also, if you look at the federal definition of DD, which I know the TCDD uses, I think it would be a little bit more inclusive.
Okay.
As to what Jennifer was noting.
This is Linda Litzinger. So I think I'm hearing you say that if you have, for example, cerebral palsy, and that might come with blindness, deafness, physical disabilities, that we're not talking about this for this effort. Is that correct?
That's correct. In this definition of it, it's specified as intellectual disability and students with autism spectrum disorder.
Okay.
As it stands now.
Okay. I work a lot with people who are deaf-blind, and that's why I'm very concerned. Sure. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, so we just talked about the definition. So here's some of the data we've gotten so far. As you can see, this is out of the whole state. So the numbers of students who are being reported to us is somewhat low, which is why we haven't been able to track too far out. But again, we've separated out intellectual disability and autism spectrum disorder. But I will say that over time, so I think the fall one is better to look at, because that's where you can really see improvements in reporting often. And so our last fall, we did see a huge increase in not huge, but an increase in the number of students who are being reported. Also, I went back and looked at how many schools were actually reporting any students, and that has increased. So I take that as a sign that more schools are starting to actually try to report this better. Because I think at first a lot of schools just didn't know what to do because it had never been required. We had never talked about it before. So I'm hopeful that, over time, schools are getting better at this. And, if we expand it, then we already even have a base of where to start. We're not starting from zero because these conversations have already been happening.
So back to the definition in this data, the name of this committee is IDD with the developmental. So how will we reconcile, we're only collecting data on intellectual disability and skipping the developmental disability?
I mean, we can talk about that. I mean, this is just what we have right now. So we can talk about how to adjust as needed.
Yeah, Amy, I think that's a great point, and that goes along with the gaps so that we discussed earlier to say, as a result of this council, we're going to have conversations, and we're probably going to discover a lot of different gaps as well. And so I think that will be a glaring gap to discuss here, and then to strategize around how we're able to reconcile that as well. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think these are all very good points, and that's why we're very glad to have experts on this. So, and I'm
I
already
had a
taking
question.
notes on it, so I will take it back.
I was wondering what your percentages of number of schools that are not reporting.
I don't remember that off the top of my head, but I can get that to y'all. And we did, when we first started, I did make some calls those first few semesters, like for those that were just reporting. So we have two questions. I'll get to the other one. The other one is about whether the student was ever enrolled in a transitional program or program specifically for students with an IDD. So I went through and looked at the schools that had 0 on everything on those two questions and made a few calls. And most of the time it was like, we're trying to get our data systems to catch up with this request. But also with the start of this, I think it's probably a good time to check back in, and make more calls.
Just to clarify, this is data that is from self-identification of students to an institution who
Correct.
then report it.
Yes, correct. It is from the Office of Disability Services, who will get it when the student comes and identifies to the office. And we had lots of conversations to make sure that that's the only way this is getting to our data. Yeah. Yes.
I don't have a mic.
Oh, wait. Okay.
I was just wondering, for programs like our PATH program, it's for students with intellectual developmental disabilities, but it may not be recognized as a university degree program. But we have students attending, and they are trained for employment, and their rate of employment is really high. So I was wondering whether those students were included in this data collection, and who do you actually have for example, Texas A&M University is huge. So, but probably somebody may not know all the other things other people are doing. So I wonder who is the contact person for the university, whether that person has all the information.
Yes, this is a very good point. We talked about it a lot in our first meeting in 2015, because in our data, you're right, we're only collecting students who are in, so the 001 includes students who are in academic or technical courses, and the 00A is continuing ed. And there are several programs that we learned that are not, those students would not be captured. And so at the time, we talked about a few ideas, but this might be another time to bring this up. Because we don't already get the data of certain programs, we would have to set something up, possibly. Like have a new data transfer of, where schools give us the information of the students they have, so then we can track. We can look at the employment outcomes, things like that. So that's definitely something that we can we can discuss as part of
Our
this.
post-secondary is similar to what Texas A&M is doing, and UT doesn't even know we exist. It's
Right.
a certificate program within our unit. And so if you call the Student Services for Disability, they're not going to think about us.
That's another
we had
good
that-
point is you all can help us know who to be reaching out to.
And I was going to say that also happened with Texas Tech. They didn't report anything, and it's because it went to Student Disability Services. Don't ask me why they didn't report it, but we're separate in a whole nother building on another part of campus, and our students all earn degrees, and they are a subset of student disabilities. But again, I will go to the portal and help you get this done.
Yes. But yes, this is an issue we've had too, is we don't have, we have a few set listservs at the agency, but because this has not been something we've been doing very long, we don't have a listserv of who to contact at the programs. And so that's where we would really, I think that's a place where you all could help us a lot.
Is there a consideration, is there an opportunity for LEAs to be able to access this, to be able to also determine school of origins? They have the indicator 14, post-secondary, and don't do a very, oftentimes have a difficult time trying to see where students have been. So if you have this database, is there a way to connect with the LEAs and then also start to disaggregate that data to see where we have programs and where students are actually getting the counseling and the services to be prepared for post-secondary?
That's a very good question. That is TEA data, so we would need to, and it's not that we never share data, but this is something we haven't shared in the past, is identification of any sort of disability. So, but that's something that we could definitely talk about.
And have the opportunity to write in some rules and agreements and processes to be able to have some of that reporting connect.
Absolutely
so
something we should talk about.
Great,
Yeah,
thank you.
And especially noting that one of the things that needs to go into the report is to discuss accessibility for students going into college. And for that, I think knowing where students are coming from after high school will be a big piece of it.
So we had the same issue at Austin Community College, and last year we started working with SAS, which is our Office of Disability Services. It's called Student Accessibility Services. I love the name change, very progressive, but nobody knows what I'm talking about. So our Office of Disability Services is called SAS, and we started working with them. So every student that I enroll, because it was very much the same, where our program, the rest of the college didn't know we really existed, things like that. So I started working with SAS. So every student I enroll, I send their paperwork over, because they have to have documented disability to be in our program. So we send that over to SAS, and they input them into the system so that they also will be reported. And that's worked pretty good, I have to say, with very little extra work put on to our program. And so,
well, and that may
just
be
a nice
something that
idea.
you all write up as a recommendation, is is suggestions for how to start making these connections, because that's what on our end, that's what we see all the time, is this part doesn't know this part. And definitely the data people were like, I don't know any of this. So then those are the people we are trying to get to report correctly. So, I think that is another opportunity for you all to really help us.
Sue Moraska, Houston Community College, do you have a list that you can provide to us of who has been participating? Because I remember the very first year that we were doing the collection, it went straight to our student services, I believe, and ADA, and no one really. I was the one kind of educating them of what this was about, and I was very involved in that data collection that first time, and I filled out the part about because we had a special program,
right?
But after that was done, I've never seen anything since, and then a year later, I just happened to go to the coordinating board and happened to see the report. But if you're doing this annually, I haven't seen anything since, and I'm getting a little concerned now because I'm wondering are you getting data from Houston Community College? Because I know that, just like Deanne and Chris said, the Vast Academy does not, our ADA offices do not have access to who's attending our programs.
No, that's a really
So
good
we need
question.
to really look at where is this. Who are you sending it to fill out the data? Because we have institutional research, and they were involved that first year. our institutional research, our ADA, and I educated them as to what this was all about, and I was involved, and I filled out the information, but then I never saw anything since, so I'm just kind of wondering, what are they submitting? Because if they're only submitting things from ADA, they're not submitting our data of who's in our program and what our students are doing, so.
No, that's a good question, and I will check. So again, so far, there have only been a couple of actual reports, and that has to do with the recruitment survey, which we will talk about in a little bit, because that's what was written in the original legislation. However, we haven't yet been able to do much with the data itself, other than just say these are the numbers of students who have been reported, because the ends are so low. But that's not to say this group in here, we could maybe talk about I think it's a really good question to talk about how many institutions are not doing anything, how many have we not heard from since that first rollout. I think that's a very good thing to be thinking about.
Excuse me, I have a question / observation. So going back to the numbers that are being counted are those who are self-identifying. So there, potentially could be more that we're certainly not capturing.
Sure.
And so I know that we are to create outreach materials about post-secondary opportunities, and so I don't know if this has been a consideration, and you can speak more to this, but so I have this question, do we include in there to recommend that people self-identify, but how do we balance that with also allowing them the choice to identify or not identify? But at the same time, some students may not know that, if there's not a really robust outreach on a campus.
Sure.
So I just wanted to ask if that had been a consideration.
We haven't gotten that much into the outreach part of it. The recruitment survey is the most we have, and I'll show you some of the results from that. But that really has to do with more students who are coming into college, like trying to reach students who are considering coming. But that's a very good point, and something that, again, maybe that would be a good survey, and we can talk about that.
Linda Litzinger, Texas Parent to Parent. When you recruit, are we saying just autism, just ID on all the recruiting materials? And then when somebody picks up a report that says IDD on it, first of all, as you're being recruited, do you know that they've limited it to just two diagnosis? And second of all, when the legislature or anybody reads the report, do they know when they see the word IDD that we're only talking about two diagnoses out of hundreds?
Right, in the report so far, so that's something, the report has been written by CRS, so Dakota's division, and I do believe it links to the definition that we include, and then has the outcomes of the survey. And I think we can skip ahead to this if you want.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. I would rather do it this way. It's more engaging. So the recruitment survey, as it is now, it's kind of attached to where the schools log in to report the services and programs that they have. And then one of the questions within that is, within the past year, has your institution taken steps to specifically recruit students with intellectual and/or developmental disabilities? And so this, I believe, does not link to our definition. The definition really is more applied to the data collection on the CBM, but these surveys have been more how the institution interprets it. So I would say most of what we have right now, if you go onto our website of the programs, they're programs like VAST and STEPS, and there's not as many programs that might be for students with a learning disability, say. So that's how it's been interpreted to this point, but not to say we couldn't expand the language if that's where the direction that you all would like to go. But currently, this is the question that leads to an institution filling out the rest of the survey, which I believe is the third page in your little packet I gave you.
Yeah, because I'm confused. So do they just have to have one or the other? Does this exclude comorbidity when they have more than one?
No, it does not.
Okay. This is Leanne Godinez. I just have a comment on the number of students that are reporting. We find in VR that a lot of students only access services in the first semester or the second semester, but they're continuing long-term.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure that the schools are aware to possibly do a cross-reference for the students that were in previous lists, because those students are probably still attending college.
Sure.
But they feel like they no longer need services.
And we've talked about that within our division too, as when we are moving forward and looking at outcomes, one thing that we should do is not only look if they were reported every semester, but if they ever were reported for the reason you're saying it, because they may, depending on the system that the institution has, this is institution by institution, it may be every semester the Office of Disability Services is giving that list. And if that student didn't come then, or it's lapsed, then they may not be reported again. Other institutions, it's left on because they don't change it once it's put in. But yes, so this affects how we would do analysis. I think that's a really good point, to make sure we're always looking at who was ever, and then it could also affect recommendations that you give to institutions. Okay, let me go. So the next thing that we do, and this is, I think I mentioned it, this is led by our Academic Quality and Workforce Division, AQW. But how it was started is we gathered survey examples, actually from Think College, Texas A&M sent us one. So to get some basic information about programs, so we could start a Texas-specific public list of programs. It's updated continuously. An institution can actually go in at any time and update it. I think the issue we've had most here is who does the link go to in the institution, to make sure that person can either fill it out themselves or get it to the right person to answer to get all the correct information. So currently on the list, and if you Google THECB, I think IDD programs, it should come up. 14 schools report having a post-secondary program for students with an IDD. 23 schools report providing services for students with an IDD. And in your second item in that packet I gave you are the questions that are asked of the programs. And we talked some about the recruitment. So from the recruitment survey, the last time this was updated was 2018. So 81 out of 102 institutions in the state responded. Out of that 81, 26%, 21 institutions reported that they did engage in some sort of recruitment. 7 said they recruited for a specific post-secondary program. 10 recruited for general academic courses only, and 4 recruited into both a program and into general courses. These are the most commonly reported recruitment activities from the survey. Presenting at secondary schools was the top one, but career and transition fairs, distributing materials about programs and services, and including the information on websites. Those are the top ones. We did ask what the most successful recruitment strategies they thought were. Transition fairs were mentioned a lot. And then these partnerships seemed very important. So partnerships with parent groups, with advocacy groups, school districts, TWC, that really came up in a lot of answers. So I think that's even though not many answered this, I mean, I think we could take something from this in any sort of recommendations, because this seems to be the places that are able to are filling this out, and our recruiting students are just always mentioning which partnerships are the most important. We also asked, what are the limitations you have to this recruitment? Insufficient time and resources from the institution was a big one. Transportation issues, under preparation of incoming students, and lack of financial aid for some of these programs or any sort of financial support for some of these programs. So moving forward, and we've kind of talked about this throughout, which I've taken a lot of notes and I really appreciate all the ideas already. But so now that you know what we have, I think we can leverage things in different ways. I think we could adjust the things we have. I think we could also, add more data sources. I think TEA will be an obvious one to talk to get some new data to connect to our data. Also surveys. I mean, that's something we use. I'm calling them surveys because we wrote them as that, but right now they're on a portal. So a student clicks on a link and fills it out. But we also are able to send surveys to every institution. If there is something that we don't collect now that you think is really key to what your charge is, we can absolutely help with that, where we have the resources here to send these surveys out and help develop them. So that's really what I wanted to get to you all today, is one, what we have, and two, to know that we really want to get your input, and we're willing to support you however we can. So thank you. And I'm sure when we'll send out the PowerPoint, I'll put my email in it too. So as you're thinking, if you have any ideas, just send them to me, and I'll get with Dakota as we get further along in the process to make sure we're getting things done as we need to. I will say, when is the report due? The end of this year?
Yes, it's due on the 1st of December, but typically the way things work here at the coordinating board, we would definitely want our board to have a look at it, and our board will convene in October, which means that we would probably need our report due somewhere around the beginning of September. So you can forget about the December 1 deadline, and let's just go with September 1. I think that would be most appropriate.
Yeah, and so if there are any things you want to make sure we have in this first report, we'll talk about what is feasible actually before then. Is there a new survey we could do quickly? We couldn't. I can say we can't change totally what we are collecting on the CBM. That takes a few semesters to kick in, so that probably wouldn't happen. But there are other things we may be able to get together before that deadline. Mm-hmm.
This is Linda Litzinger. Is the bill just about programs within programs? Or is it about a student goes to college, they identify themselves, they have JAWS for their vision, but they need sheet music for their music major to be more accessible to their eyes, to their vision? I mean, is the bill just limited to these special programs that are within our colleges, or is it bigger than that?
I don't think it limits to
Okay.
a specific program. I think that
Okay,
it's
so
just
right now
about-
the data is about the individual programs.
No, not all
Is
of
it
it.
bigger? Okay.
Yeah, it's bigger because the only reason we added the specific program is because we realized that in the data collection, we often weren't reaching
Okay.
that group because they weren't in the data. But
Okay.
in general, we are still getting
So
information.
the
that
only
are in
limitation
general.
of the data right now is diagnosis.
Yes, if that's something you want to add, we are not. Yeah,
Thank you.
that's currently
Okay.
not what it is.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I realize that we may not be able to collect new data and have it in a report by September, but I do think that summarizing this discussion here this morning is really important to highlight all of these issues and how the numbers that you're looking at are really not what's really going on.
Yeah, Beth, I think that's a great point. Can we go back to the slides that highlighted the limitations? Yes, right here. And so I would, for one, of course, I'm going to ensure that everyone has all of these things. But as we continue to think about the recommendations, I think that it'll be very important to add to this list, because I'm pretty sure this isn't an all-encompassing list. And so I'm sure if we were to go around the room right now and ask to add to this list, we would be able to do that. I won't ask that just for the sake of time, but I do ask that you all consider the list here and then to add to this as well. And then if we go back a slide before this, And again, I think the same can be held true for these as well in terms of the successes. I think that it'll also be incumbent upon us to add to this list as well. So in our report, I would want us to have a robust list of things that work, and then things that, of course, do not work, and then ultimately have the appropriate recommendations around how can we strategize to eliminate the things that do not work and operationalize the things that are working. And I know it may be tough because our state is huge. It's almost like its own, it's its own country sometimes. So the things that work at one institution may not work at a different institution per se, but I think that it's important to highlight that, especially in the report, so that that particular report can serve as a resource guide for those in the field doing the work. Yes.
Can I suggest that we collected a different set of data? Just how many institutions, whether public or private, I don't know if you want to collect a private, but collect data on universities or colleges that have programs that it specifically for students with intellectual developmental disabilities. In reality, most of the students are attending those programs than the general degree programs. So I think it's worthwhile to know how many programs are there in the states that are specifically targeted students with the intellectual developmental disabilities. That would help us to describe the picture, the bigger picture.
And I do think this is not everyone yet, but as of now, we have 14 schools that are saying that they have it. So I think one thing we can do, and this definitely can be done before the report, is getting your input on how to be getting this survey out to the right people.
I think it would also be important to look at the data from TEA and TWC as to how many students they're serving in higher ed, because I think when we look at those numbers, we're way underreported in the data that you're collecting. Not that you haven't done a great job, because I really appreciate all you've done, but I think it's important to kind of look at how underreported this is and maybe how we go about tapping into connections that we have with our other two agencies.
I think that'll be really important. And we already do have, we have MOUs, data sharing MOUs with both TWC and TEA already. Often though, when we add a new thing we're looking at, we just have to add to the MOUs. So I don't necessarily think that would be a huge issue. It's just something that has to be worked out.
I just have to say that I'm so excited that we are collecting this data now. And yes, we have to make some tweaks and with everything. But, I started with STEPS 10 years ago, and literally, and I know the rest of you can say the same, everything we do, we've built from the ground up, because there was nothing, like we were reinventing the wheel. So it's just neat that this is happening, because we've been wanting it so bad for so long. So I'm just really happy to be here and glad you're collecting this data.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to have you all here because, I do a lot of data and research stuff, but I'm not an expert in this field and I'm not there every day. So you all are the ones who can help us know how to make this data better because, we only know what we know, and we know you know more. So I'm really excited to have this partnership.
The other thing I'm thinking of too is looking at when we're talking about, and we know every public university has to have a student disability services office, but I think polling the other programs to find out how they got started, what were the barriers to getting started, and the barriers to sustainability. I will say at Texas Tech, had it not been for the seed money we got from funding from TCDD, we would have not gotten off the ground. We have not sustained, would not have been able to sustain as easily if we had not had the Texas workforce come in and help us with that. So I think it'd be very important as we're giving information out of the importance of of building these kind of programs, what are the things you need to be prepared to do? What are some of the barriers and how those programs have overcome them? Because there are a number of programs that I think start really small with less than 5 students and maybe 1 faculty member that have no budget and, but it's a start. And then where do you go from there to build something larger?
Yeah.
I think that would be really important.
That's a really good idea.
Hi, this is Jolene Sanders. I don't know if you can hear me. If you've been on any committee with me, you probably know what I'm going to say. But I think in considering outreach and recruitment and looking at the data, it's really important to make sure that we're considering very intentionally those who are underserved or unserved in rural areas, Spanish-speaking families, or those who speak a language other than English.
Thank you.
And I will just add to that as a possible recommendation. I don't know if we're getting ahead of ourselves because we're very excited. But I think that not just in incorporating surveys of institutions, but really trying to get the student perspective and to increase their perceptions, because there is a whole group of folks who are interested in going to school and they're not able to go. I don't know that I mean, again, I haven't studied the data, but I think some of it is maybe seems anecdotal from the institution's recruitment efforts as to why they didn't come in. But there's a whole group of people that want to go and have real barriers.
Right.
And it's not just because they didn't get to go to the recruitment session. It's a lot more than that. And so I think really trying to understand that would help shape some of the programs at these institutions and trying to meet those needs.
Okay, thank you all. And again, when we send this out, I'll have my email address on it, so you always feel free to reach out to me, and I'm sure we'll be talking again.
All right, Melissa, thank you so much. Again, are there any other questions for Melissa? I think we did a great job at getting a lot out of her. Thank you so much. We really appreciate that. Next, we are going to hear a presentation from Kate Weir from Think College. I've had an opportunity to speak with her a couple times, and I know a lot of you in the room has had the opportunity to work with her and her organization, and they do a great job at being able to provide a national perspective of the work, that is going on. And so I thought that it would be a great idea to have her come and present the work that they are doing and the ramifications of that work for the state of Texas. So at this time, we will hear from Kate. Kate, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Perfect. I will turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you. So I will go over my slides, and just there's somebody there in the room that would just say next slide. You guys are moving forward for me?
Yes,
right?
There he is.
Okay. So is it, and the slide presentation is up currently?
Yes, it is.
Okay, all right, thanks. I have, you can't be on the phone and kind of watching because the sound is, it's not quite in sync, so I'm not able to really see what's going on in the room, but that is fine. And this has been a really, really interesting conversation so far, and I appreciate you all inviting Think College to participate. It's really exciting what Texas is embarking on, or in really, I think, in continuation of things that they've been doing the last few years. Very, very interesting conversation around disability type and so forth that we certainly engage with a lot for our work as well. But I am going to be sharing from the Think College perspective. We work with students who have a diagnosis of intellectual disability. So the work that I'm going to be describing and the federal legislation and so forth is all around that, that specific type of developmental disability. So just to clarify that and add that into the mix of as you guys consider how you're describing and defining the disabilities that you're collecting information on. So if you can move to the next slide, I think that's just my bio slides, unless it's already there. In case, for those of you who don't know me, this is what I look like. And on a good hair day, this is what I look like. And I have worked with, in higher education for students with intellectual disability for over 10 years. The last 12 years, I've been at the Institute for Community Inclusion at University of Massachusetts, Boston, where we have had multiple federal grant projects related to the increasing opportunities for college experiences for students with intellectual disability. And as I mentioned when I introduced myself, I'm currently the project director for the Think College National Coordinating Center. That is funded by the U.S. Department of Education. We have been funded as the National Center since 2010, and we do multiple things as the center. One of the most important is that we facilitate data collection and analysis from all of the federally funded model demonstration projects, which we call TPSIDs, or Transition Post-Secondary Programs for Students with ID. And I'm delighted to at least virtually see my friend Sue Maraska in the room, and Sue and Bass Academy at Houston Community College was a TPSID site in 2010 to 2015. So we worked closely with y'all at that time. So, and we are expecting there to be, we just heard from our project officer yesterday, that there will be a new competition for TPSID that will come out this year for funding for FY21 through 25. So that's excellent news for those of us who are interested and passionate about this subject, and also might align kind of interestingly with where you guys are in your process at the state level. So we could talk more about that at a later time, but we just got that good news yesterday. Okay, so I guess the next slide it tells about the National Coordinating Center. And the only thing I'll highlight there is, if you're not familiar, but I've heard several people mentioning it in the meeting so far, our website where we share our resources is www.thinkcollege.net. The slide just illustrates, that's just a screenshot of our homepage, but we hope that we have many, many helpful resources. And the section that you guys might be interested in exploring, because you're working on this comprehensive statewide initiative, is our work that we do to collect the other statewide work that's done, either legislatively or through committees and consortium and so forth. So if you go to the What's Happening in Your State page, you'll not only be able to see what's going on in Texas and keep me up, we can keep it up to date as you provide us with more information if you want to, but you also get some examples of what other states have done. So that may be useful to you in the long run as you work. Next slide, please. And I do know it's very hard to listen to a disembodied voice talking to you over the phone, but I will try to take a breath every once in a while, because I really do welcome your questions and comments, and so I want to make sure this presentation is useful to your work. This next slide just will remind some of you, or inform those of you who have not been as involved in really what was a pivotal moment in the movement to increase opportunities for post-secondary education for students with intellectual disability. And that was when the Higher Education Act was reauthorized as the Higher Education Opportunity Act in 2008. And so for the first time, students with intellectual disability specifically were mentioned in that act, programs to specifically support those students with ID. And as some of you guys have already been describing in the meeting this morning, these are programs that are typically non-degree certificate programs for students who would not or do not meet typical entrance criteria, but they are designed to be inclusive programs that in all other ways are very, very typical to the typical college experience that other undergraduates are having. So the definition for the Comprehensive Transition Program is in the Higher Education Act. It provides access to federal student aid for students who have an intellectual disability who are attending an approved comprehensive transition program. So once you've been through the approval process, students who do not have a regular high school diploma and are not matriculating towards a degree are still eligible for federal student aid if they are attending a comprehensive transition program that's been approved. So that removed a couple of barriers to federal student aid that had been in the way of students with ID in the past. It provided this funding for the coordinating center that I direct, as well as these model demonstration projects. There were 27 funded in 2010 to 2015, and we currently have 25 funded projects that have been operating from 2015 until they will wrap up their 5-year grant cycle at the end of September 2020. And as I said, there'll be a new competition for another 5-year grant cycle. We've also worked on the development of model accreditation standards. We've been working on that extensively at the National Coordinating Center. It's one of our key activities. Those also are, I think, a good guide for people who are looking at program development and program improvement, because we do anticipate that there will be a process by which programs that serve students with ID will be accredited in the future. We hope to see that in the next, I hesitate to say how many years or months, but we really hope that that will become a reality for our field and align these programs with all other higher education programs that are also accredited. And we do a lot of data collection. So I really felt, the ROAM, it's so complicated to collect data on, and you guys brought up some great questions, concerns, and ideas around the data collection in Texas. But if there's any way that you think we can help with our experience collecting data from the model demonstration programs, that's one way we collect data. That's our much more intensive and extensive data collection effort. But we also maintain a database for the country, similar to what you all are maintaining for Texas, around the number of programs that are specifically serving kids with IDD. And our database currently has 11 programs listed for Texas. So we don't match up with your 14, so there may be some that could be added to our database as well. But we do focus on our database on programs that serve kids with ID, again, and not the more global IDD or other types of developmental disability specifically. Next slide, please. So this slide just highlights for you, and I'm even on the phone over here in chilly Charlotte, North Carolina, which is where I'm sitting today, I can really feel the excitement that's in the room there. So that's really cool, and I think part of the reason that we all remain excited about this, these conversations, is because it's been an area of real tremendous growth for individuals with disabilities, particularly those with intellectual and developmental disabilities, to have new and constantly improving opportunities to continue their education after high school. And the outcomes that those programs are seeing are very, very encouraging. And so this slide, it kind of illustrates where we've come over the last 20 years or so, it represents that. And you're just part of it with your commission to push things even further along in your state, and I'm sure will be an example to other states as well. So if we look at the next slide, this is a map that probably a lot of you that follow us have seen or have ever been to a presentation, because we put it in pretty much every one of them. But this map illustrates where we are today with college options for students with ID. And as I said, we do have 11, so we'd be happy to compare our lists and see if there's things ones we have that you don't, or ones that you have that we don't, and make sure that matches. We do get a lot of traffic on our website and to this particular part of our website, the college search section. So in terms of outreach, certainly what you're going to do there at the local and state level is going to be awesome. But if there's any way that you can leverage our website to do your outreach and making sure just that level of awareness of what's available in Texas, we're certainly happy to help you in any way that we can by adding any of your programs that you would like to advertise through our listing. The other thing is, this is a really tiny thing, but I was thinking it while y'all were talking, we do have an email and a contact name for every program. Y'all probably do too, but just in case that's helpful, because I know some of you are saying you're not sure if you're emailing the right person. So if there's, if we can help with that, we're certainly more than happy to do that as well. And then the next slide, I just wanted to show you really briefly, represents the the programs that are currently approved as comprehensive transition programs and able to offer federal student aid. And we don't currently show any in Texas. So this would certainly be something for y'all to consider. What would be the advantages and how you might want to look at, because I noticed on one of your barriers, it was around the lack of financial aid resources for attendance. And so that is exactly what the Comprehensive Transition Program definition and process for approval is trying to address, is to remove some barriers to federal student aid that students with intellectual disability experience. The good news is that in the application process, we will walk any program through it step by step. We have an online module that you can go through. We have a template that you can download and fill in the blanks in terms of filling out your applications. We have examples of approved applications that you can cut and paste from or use as an example. We will read your CTP application and give you guidance before you submit it. So we really want to help people to get that status because it does help students. And the approval process itself is moving much more quickly than it used to. And sometimes in the span of just a few weeks between submitting the application and the approval coming, so that you can then offer your students that federal student aid. So that's, I think, really good news that that's moving along. And we've seen growth here. This number, just about probably 18 months ago, this number was more in the 70s, and now we have 104. So that's good news. Okay, I'm going to take a breath and see if anybody has any comments or questions so far, and then we can move on to my next slide.
I would like to say a comment. Sue Maraska, Houston Community College. Hi, Kate.
Hi, Sue.
It's been a while. I know we see at State of the Arts conference sometimes. I just wanted to tell you and also everyone here that Houston Community College Vast Academy, I feel that we should have been on that list for the CTP years ago, but there were a number of reasons. I cannot mention exactly here, but I will tell you that in 2013, we did put together the application at that time, and there were some delays with our college that were out of our control, so we had to wait. And in the meantime, we had made some changes to our program, and we had changed our curriculum, and so now we are in the process. We have our application ready. There's a meeting already set up with our financial aid director so we can get that submitted ASAP. I'm hoping in the next couple weeks. So I'm hopeful that we should be a CTP, because I feel that we define what a CTP is. We were part of the group of the National Consortium that helped, write the wording and the legislation to begin with. So we should be on there. And I know that I do want to mention that Think College has a link. You all have a link on your website that details the process of how to apply to be a CTP, and you have a lot of, I know you guys are reaching out to anyone that needs help with that in that process. So, and hopefully if we get funded, or when we get funded, hopefully we get approval, I'm more than happy to assist anybody, in Texas that would like to apply.
Right, it'd be a great resource to your brother and sister programs there in Texas. Excellent. Well, I'm delighted to hear that, Sue, and it's nice to talk with you, at least virtually.
Thank you.
That's excellent. Okay, so my next few slides just that's sort of some of the just overall national picture that I was asked to share. The next few slides really address a section that Dakota and I talked about in terms of work that your commission could do and will be doing to address the barriers to post-secondary education for students with intellectual disability. So I'll talk about that. I think probably there's many people in the room that know this as well or better than I can certainly say. But it's a way to sort of put them out there, and you guys can think about other barriers that you know of there in your state. And then we'll end with just a reminder that we're more than happy at Think College to help in any way that we can with this very, very impressive activity that you guys are beginning today. So this next slide just really highlights, I think, part of what we believe is so powerful about our mission and this movement that we're all a part of, because we really do want students with intellectual disability to be able to go to college and benefit from it, and that having opportunities, as someone mentioned earlier, in rural areas as well as in urban areas, all different kinds of programs offering training and all different kinds of career paths, so that students have the same kinds of choices that everybody else does. But it really does more than that in terms of it impacts not just the students with intellectual disability, but the institutions of higher education that engage in this work and begin to offer this type of higher education to these students. It creates on your campuses, and I'm sure those of you who are operating programs can speak to this and see it every day, college students without disability, without intellectual disability, who have an opportunity to study side by side with individuals with ID, or to work with them on accessing campus activities and so forth. It changes those individuals as well, and I think increases their ability to understand the capacities and gifts that students with intellectual disability have as they grow into their own adulthood. And it enhances our future workforce because we are really hitting this untapped resource of the talents that students with IDD have to bring to the workplace. So with that being said, the next slide illustrates that we are seeing, and these are the data now that we take from the TIPSID program. So this is those 25 TIPSID grantees who actually, because some of them operate consortia or operate multiple programs in one state. There are over 50 colleges and universities that we are collecting data from for their college programs for students with ID. And we've just begun last year or so to be able to be allowed to collect longitudinal data on these students, and we're finding a 65% employment rate. This was last year. We're about to look at what we're getting now, and we have the number of students who have graduated from these programs who are sharing data continues to grow, and so we are building that longitudinal data set. And 65% is good. You know, you think, well, that could be higher, but it certainly looks excellent compared to the 19%, which is the current national average for employment for adults with intellectual disability in the United States. So these programs clearly make a huge difference. And so it's, you know, probably, I'm sure that's a lot of what has to do with why Texas, in its wisdom, has decided to invest in this kind of an opportunity for these students. Next slide, please. So your role of the commission, and you know, is really you have a lot to do, and I think you're thinking it through very well from what I can hear and read about it. But you're wanting to address barriers to full participation and to create, you know, diversity and inclusion on all your college campuses in your state, and to assure that those campuses are well supporting students who have more significant support needs, different kinds of learning challenges, and that they have that opportunity to learn alongside their peers without disability. And you want to make sure, I think, that you pay attention to the message, and I think the message is fundamentally diversity and inclusion. Now, this is in particular, I think, when we're talking about the development of new programs, this is a powerful message to send to higher education, that is fundamentally what our movement is about. But let's take a look at the next slide. And these are what I see across the country, or not only myself, but of course our whole team. When we work with the development of programs across the country, and we talk with families and students and educators, these are the barriers to participation that I think come to the forefront. I'd be really interested to hear from anyone in the room if you see others, or if you think that some of these are perhaps even are some of the greatest barriers there in Texas. Certainly the raising awareness of options, and you all have mentioned this already today and spoken with each other about it, but we find that we're constantly amazed at the I am, personally, I will have a family member call and say, I've been saying that I wanted my son or daughter to go to college at his IEP meeting since he was in the 7th grade, and no one ever told me even that thinkcollege.net existed. No one directed me to your website. I happened to find out about it through some other mechanism. And so we have to do, and we have to continue to do a great job, a much better job in making sure that families know about the resources and that educators in the K-12 system know about them, know about these opportunities so that they can be sharing those opportunities with their students and their parents and family all along the way of their education. And I heard you guys talking about, resources to that end, and I think that's critically important. We also need to develop more inclusive higher education options across the country, and so in your state, as you said, if you have 14 options, you're among you have the most or many more than many other states do. But of course, as you mentioned, you're a very, very large state. So it's not only the options that might be near a student, but it's also the options in terms of the kind of program it is. Is it at a 2-year or 4-year college? Is it residential? What kinds of classes can you take? What kinds of careers can you study there? And so the more options you have, the better able you are to serve all students who want to have that opportunity. There's certainly a barrier around paying for college for everybody, but that can be particularly extreme for students with intellectual disability who may have not saved for college or expected to need a college fund perhaps when they were younger. And we also find that this kind of goes to this last bullet or barrier that I show on the slide around coordination, because we find that sometimes there are conflicts and a lack of coordination between and among the kinds of resources that are available to students with intellectual and developmental disability that could help them to go to college, such as vocational rehabilitation, IDEA funding, adult developmental disability services, Medicaid. We need to really be looking at how those programs can address any potential barriers to the use of those resources to support college attendance, and also ways in which they can cooperate and collaborate with each other so that everybody is pitching in and helping to support their clients' students to be able to participate in higher ed. And there really are huge issues around transportation, and particularly if you are in a rural area, if you're not in an area with any kind of mass transit system, and if your college program doesn't offer housing, those transportation issues become very, very critical to be able to support students to get to and from the college campus. So what do you think about those barriers? Are those ones that you feel like you have there in Texas as well?
Yeah, Kate, I'm seeing a lot of head nodding of yes. And so
Good.
I definitely
Yeah,
think that those are
and
some.
there may be others as well. And so, but I think that it could be a framework even for your report to sort of say, here's recommendations to directly address. But these do seem to be, as I said, nationally, these are some of the ones that we hear about the most. And then there are probably sub barriers underneath each one of these as well. So let's go look at the next slide, and this is sort of my or our, as Think College, approach to thinking about what is it that we're actually doing. And I think it's so critically important, and this goes to my diversity and inclusion slide as well, that we make sure that when we're working in this field and the way we talk about it, particularly when we talk about it to people who may not have a friend with an intellectual or developmental disability, not have the experience that you guys have in the room, having a disability yourself, or working in a field, a profession that supports individuals. We really understand that students with ID and developmental disability have capacities and gifts, and we want to make sure that our language that we use when we're talking about it reflects that. And so I just put together this list of sort of the ways in which I think you can talk about what you're doing. It also resonates, particularly for higher education, in a way, so because you don't want a college that you'd like to start a new program, they're not starting a social service. They are, in fact, offering an educational opportunity. So you're talking about alternative pathways for diverse learners, not a special program. You're talking about creating opportunities for universally designed learning opportunities rather than making modifications, which those of you who work in higher ed, you know, modifications is kind of a dirty word. You're creating a desirable and transferable credential. And this is something we've worked a lot at the center over the last few years to think about what are students earning when they're leaving these programs. And Sue, I have to say that, you know, you guys have done well with that area in terms of the credentials students can earn. And we like to, you know, have students feel that they're truly part of the college or university that they attend. They're not attending a program, they're attending a college. And that program may, you know, is part of their experience, but they really feel like truly valued members of the campus community as well. Next slide. So when I was thinking about your work and you know, maybe a little bit about how we could help or how we offer, if at any point a national perspective seems useful to y'all. You know, I think if you create expectations for college throughout K-12, a commitment to inclusive learning opportunities on as many college campuses in Texas as you possibly can, to develop pathways to effective career development that leads to paid employment, to create access to meaningful credentials, and to have, and this is so key, this is, I think, fundamental and foundational, partnerships between and among all the representatives that you have there in the room. And I really was struck this morning when we were going and everyone was introducing themselves. I was like, oh my gosh, like everybody who was invited, I think, came to this meeting. And that just shows your commitment, which I think is wonderful. And those kinds of partnerships and working together are going to be critical to your work, I believe. So I'll just finish with my next slide with just a couple of students that I know that that attended college here in North Carolina. And the gentleman on the right, his name is Kenneth, and this is a quote from him about what it meant to him to be able to go to college. He's got his arm around his fraternity brother, and he found that he not only earned a great career when he went to college, but because he was fully included on all aspects of the campus community, he was able to make lifelong friends. I'm a friend with him on Facebook, and he seems to go to a wedding like every other weekend of somebody that one of his frat brothers or other people that he worked with and studied with in college. And that's really, you know, it's just a testament to the power of an inclusive higher education. So I'll just have you put up my last slide. I'm happy to take any questions. I know that lunchtime is probably looming and y'all might be thinking about that at this point, but I'll hang around for a while. If there's any questions, I'm happy to have people follow up with me with our email. So that general email on the slide just goes to our help desk, and that's kind of where we coordinate the technical assistance and email correspondence that we do with folks. And we do have hundreds of resources on our website, and we offer, as the coordinating center, we are able to offer free on-site and virtual technical assistance for any number of topics that you got. You know, don't hesitate to ask if you think it's something that we could help you with. We feel very fortunate that we are able to provide those services to people like yourselves who are willing to do the hard work of increasing opportunities for students, and we're happy to be able to support you in any way that we can. So again, thank you for inviting me, and I'm happy to take any comment or question that you might have.
I have a question. This is Linda Litzinger. I'm very excited about one of your slides. It's number 12. There's a little blue box that says, create a highly desirable and transferable credential. And I'm wondering if you've seen any states pass out a list of every transferable credential offered in the state, like one list to every educator in high school, so that they can start to envision where they're sending their kids toward. And also, we've had a UDL bill fail at our legislature twice now, and the legislators don't really understand the point of inclusion. Just one or two, but they're the key ones. So I'm just wondering if you've seen any states put out a list like that to those two groups of people.
Yeah, I think the credential stuff is really, it's kind of a hot issue right now for us. I think honestly, I said in the beginning, I've been doing this work for well over a decade, and early on, I think the credential that students earned didn't get the attention that it really deserved. It was just kind of like, oh, they get to go to college, but it's getting so much more attention, and I think very rightfully so. So I love your idea of kind of a list of the credentials that are available, and I think perhaps, I don't know that, I'm not sure that I would know if such a list had been created, but I haven't heard of that specifically. I do know that in the state of Florida, who has invested quite a lot at the state level in college education for students with intellectual and developmental disability, that they are really looking at the different credentials that students earn within those programs and making sure that they're tailored, for example, to work that's available in the region that the university or college is located, and that they do really want to make sure that those credentials are meaningful, that they're awarded by the institution. They're not just something that the program puts together, but in fact has been through an approval process. And the other thing that I'm seeing happen, and I think is really exciting, is workforce-specific credentials, being students with more significant disability and getting the support they need to get through those kinds of certifications. Food safety certifications, LNA certifications. So those sometimes, you have to be thoughtful about how you can support students with more significant learning challenges in those things, but students are starting to earn those a lot more. So there still are, most of the programs, I think, in the country have what is really an individually designed curriculum or course of study that is designed towards the specific student's goals for their career, but there are a growing number that are offering a specific kind of credential. And I think ideally, your state could offer both of those, both like what you do, and I'm not going to remember it. I don't think I'm going to say it right, but you have that program there in Texas, I can't remember which university, where you're training people to work in human services. So you do have that specific goal. And then in other places, so those are the kinds of things that I'm seeing. But
thank you.
I agree with you that tagging on to that and seeing like the types of credentials that are available to be earned at these, within Texas would be a great addition or adjunct to the work that you're doing as far as your public awareness pieces.
And I would like to add to the fact that, we've been doing this it'll be 30 years next year. So we started when ADA basically was barely coming out. Mm-hmm. So you can't, take a program that's been around, 3 campuses, 200 students, with all these years. And when we got our TIPSID grant, we weren't going to just start over and, have this full inclusion model. We had to look at where we were, where we've come from, and where we're going. And sure. I think having that, I don't want, when you say that develop a special program, no, when you start new now, that's not part of where we need to be looking at. So when we talk to our administrators, we don't say, no, let's not start another special program or a special course. Mm-hmm. But what I do want to share that a lot of these programs, I know HCC Vast Academy is not the only one. Many of our programs, we offer, I'm looking right here at all these 60-30, 60-30, we know the goals of our 60-30 here in Texas, and one of the 3 objectives I know is marketable skills. And the marketable skills, soft skills, career readiness, soft skills, that is what a lot of our programs provide that are, in addition, the colleges and universities already have workforce programs. They already have academic programs that our students can feed into and go into, and we are the programs that are providing those supports for these students so they can go to college like any other student. But when we created our meaningful credential, we were looking at what are those occupational career readiness skills that are valuable and meaningful that will help our students in any area or any field. And I think, yes, we may have a special program, but we have been very successful at helping our students transition and get associate degrees and workforce certificates like any other student with those supports. And I think that, I just wanted to mention that the meaningful credentials are, the colleges and universities already have certificates. It's more, getting, where do we start with providing those services and those natural supports so that our population can go to college and be successful like anyone else.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'd like to just piggyback on that. I always have parents say, well, what does this look like? Your program. And I always have to say, well, it looks different for almost every student that I encounter. Some students are with us a couple months or a couple semesters, and then they go on to regular classes because they really just needed to get some executive skills or really over the fear. But functioning academically, they were okay. And then I have a student who's been with me 7 years. It just takes one class a semester, and I think that's the way it's going to be because they're very happy with their job and everything, and they just like it. So, it looks so different, and I think the special programs will still be here, but I do think we need to advance it so that more students can be mainstreamed or taking traditional
Right. I was
courses.
really intrigued by
100%.
the way that you started off with your data collection by engaging disability services, because in a perfect world, hopefully we're all getting closer to that every day, there would be, this would just be yet another group of students that was getting support through disability services. I think we do have to acknowledge that there are students with intellectual disability and developmental disability who they do need an alternate pathway to and through college. That matriculation and those are sometimes a high bar. Although many students with the right support absolutely earn those degrees and so forth in a typical way. But it's kind of like you just want it to be a typical experience for them with the supports that they need to be successful.
Yeah, I'm always saying that a lot of the things we do with our students would help most students. And so I like this universal designed learning opportunities. I think that's going to be really key and something we should definitely focus on in this council.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think you're right. And it was interesting, when you start a program and you're thinking about it, it's kind of more like a support service than a program, really, or it's one of the options. But like you said, it benefited a lot of students. First-generation college students could benefit from the kind of supportive wraparound checks and balances that programs typically offer for students at IDD. So you're absolutely right. It adds a resource to the whole campus.
Are there any other questions for Kate? We really appreciate her time and her expertise in being able to provide us with the information that she just reviewed, and I think that it was very applicable for our work that we will be doing here. And I really appreciated slide 12 as well, but I also took great interest in slide number 6 and slide number 7 when you speak about the college options for students with IDD. I think that is very important for us to keep that at the forefront of our minds as well, and to continue to think about ways in which we can improve upon the numbers that we see here for our state. While here it shows that we have 11 programs, I don't think that I'll be the only one to say that that's probably not enough, right? And so as we continue to think about our work and the things that we have to do over the next 2 years, one of the ways that I think that we could be very successful if we were obviously to see an increase in this particular number. At the end of the work, if you're anything like me, when you take on a project, you always say, okay, at the end of this project, how will I know if I did a good job or not, right? And so I would hope that all of you all are here and have that same mindset as well. And I think one of the tangible things that we will be able to point to when we ask ourselves, did we do a good job or not for the state of Texas and for those particular individuals, if we were to see a couple of the numbers on this map go up, of course, I think that would be a tangible asset to the state and to the institutions as well. And so, Kate, I really appreciate you for being able to highlight a few things on here that we may need to pay special attention to as we continue to think about the recommendations and trying to address the barriers as well. And so again, thank you so much. Are there any other questions for Kate at this time? I think she's going to stay with us for the remainder of the call, perhaps, maybe?
I think I have about another hour.
Okay, about another hour. Okay, okay. So
I've been enjoying the conversation. I wish I could stay the whole time, but I think I have to go at 2 o'clock, to my time.
Yeah, that's definitely understandable. That's definitely understandable.
I just wanted to thank you and ask you to thank your colleagues because Deborah Hart and I'm trying to remember who. Meg Regal both came down to Texas a couple years ago and kind of helped us with the momentum that has led to this legislation. So y'all deserve a round of applause for your assistance and building that kind of energy for us. So thank you very much, and please pass our best wishes on to them.
I certainly will. They'll be delighted to hear that because that's what we're all about. So it's wonderful. Thank you so much.
I just thought of one thing I wanted to mention. There is a state-of-the-art conference every year, and Think College, of course, is at the forefront of that. I serve on the advisory council for that. And I highly recommend everyone here, if you have not attended one of the state-of-the-art conferences, to consider doing that. I think the next one's in October. And when you go to that conference, you will hear from all of the different colleges and universities around the country what they're doing in this movement. I always call it the movement, the Think College Higher Ed inclusive movement. But it really is exciting to go there. I mean, I've been there, I've presented, I've attended, and now they've even started a student part of the conference. There's also a student conference, right, Kate, where the students can come.
That's right, yeah. Right. It's really cool. Yeah, there's a student leadership conference that runs simultaneously, and then some events are crossovers, some keynotes and so forth. It's really cool. It is. Thank you for bringing that up. It's in Syracuse, at Syracuse University, October 6th and 7th. The call for papers just came out yesterday.
Yeah, I saw that.
And so, someone there might want to come and share what Texas is up to because it's quite exciting. But it is well worth it to, as you say, to just really hear what's going on in this field nationally.
Hello, this is Rhett Calvert. I am the student from Texas Tech. As someone with a disability, I say it really warms my heart to see all of this happening for us. Thank you very much for all that you guys do. Because I think one of the biggest things in there is just knowing that we, even with disabilities, we're still students. We're still people.
Right.
Because I have had situations, one of my good friends, he has he has some parents that were very overprotective of him, didn't let him go to college even because they think he was too held back by his disabilities to even be able to give the chance. And that it really hurt for him. I felt like he was yeah, and it's unfortunate because as someone with disabilities, it's very common for us to be dependent on our parents and what they say, and so we end up tending to get held back by some of those stuff. So when I see these things, I'm very glad that you guys are showing potentially to, you're showing awareness potentially to these stubborn parents that may not, I'm sorry. I am very aware that many people here are parents as well. But yeah, and I'm just glad that you guys are making this aware, because I think it's very important to know that people with disabilities are to be treated like any other student. I think is very important.
Fantastic. And some of your voice is so important in that, because you being able to share, you know, that you survived college, you know, nothing terrible happened to you. And in fact, probably wonderful things are happening for you. You know, parents, sometimes, like you said, they're fearful, but it's really great to be able to meet someone like yourself and say, okay, maybe this is something we should look at and consider. So good for you. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you very much.
There any other questions for Kate? And Red, I want to thank you as well, because right before you made your comments, I was going to make a comment about, of course, our advisory council being very carefully curated to involve state employees and parents and students. And I was going to actually say, I want this students to feel very comfortable to speak and to give insights and input. And right before I was going to say that, you spoke, and so thank you so much. But I would still want to highlight, just to make 100% sure that our students and former students feel completely welcome and invited to speak and to give their input and insight and all of those things, because at the end of the day, we are definitely here to serve you all. And it is a pleasure to have you all on the council. And so I want you to feel 100% comfortable with making whatever statement you think is appropriate at the time. So thank you again. I really appreciate that as well.
With that being said, I wanted to add to that. I always tell new instructors whenever they're like, oh, but I don't know what to do with this particular student. And I always say, well, ask the student. They're their own expert. So we're glad you're here, because you guys are the experts here.
I completely agree, Chris. So if there are no more questions for Kate, again, we want to thank you for your time and your expertise, and we look forward to you continuing to engage with us as we do this work and try to traverse this particular landscape. We do have lunch set up on the agenda. I have it to be a working lunch, just so that we can be respectful for everyone's time, but we can take about a 10-minute break, if that's okay with everyone, so that you can use the facilities and get your lunch, and then perhaps return back to your tables. And then I'm excited about this afternoon, because we're going to hear from some of our own in-house experts at the institutions and learn more about the work that they are doing. So I'm very excited about that. So if there's no other questions at this time, last break for lunch, it is 12:10. I think we take 15 minutes then. So if we can all be back in our seats at about 12:25 to have another conversation and to learn more about the programs in the state, I think that would be great. Is that okay with everyone? Does that work for everyone? How about you, Chair Litzenberger? I'm going to make sure to keep emphasizing that. Is that okay with you?
I second the motion.
Well, fantastic. Okay. Well, we are going to be dismissed for now. Thank you.
fine. Did you get it?
It just came through. Boom, just came through. I'm gonna add it and then we'll be good to go. And in there.
Is there internet, Wi-Fi?
Yes,
There is? Okay.
it is. Connect to the Education Go Get It is the best one.
Educating, okay. Is there a password?
No password.
No, it's not protected.
Okay.
Yeah, I should have put that on you all's agenda.
Yeah, I'm really disappointed. Just kidding.
Where are you most comfortable? You can sit and do it. The same way I did mine. I was sitting there doing it.
I can't exist, but I got it.
I feel totally disconnected. I left my phone at home. I'm like, how did I do that? And then I'm like, how do I get here? Oh God, I hope I remember. You know?
5 minutes, so I hope that it's appreciated. It had nothing to do with the technology glitch on my end whatsoever. But I'm excited to have, again, you all here, but I'm definitely excited to hear about the awesome programs that we have here in the state of Texas, which again, one being housed at Texas Tech and Case, one being housed at the Houston Community College and the Vast Academy, and then here locally we have STEPS at Austin Community College. And so we wanted to give our colleagues about 15 minutes or so to talk through their programs, because if you're anything like me, you've heard about the programs and you know that they do a great job, but I wanted to know even a little bit more about them. And so I thought that it would be a great opportunity to have the content experts who are here do exactly that. And so the first one up will be Chair Litzenberger to talk through us about the case at Texas Tech. So I will turn it over to her at this time.
All right, if nobody minds, I'm going to sit and just, if I will be resending this slides to you or whoever so I can put the right names on it. I was so anxious and worried about making sure my guys got here that I completely left all my handouts and everything at home. So luckily, through the wonderful things of cell phones, my assistant director forwarded me the latest presentation we did for the Texas workforce here a few weeks ago. So I'm going to use that. So if you want to go ahead and go to the next slide. This is what I was talking about, looking at data from various partners. The latest data that we have from TEA reports that approximately 40,000 students have autism in K-12 in Texas in 2013. It's now up to almost 72,000 in 2018, and over 5,000 students are exiting special education each year. So what this tells us that there'll be approximately 70,000 students, and this is just autism because that's kind of what we focus on. We get a number of other developmental disabilities too, but being that it's a four-year university, a lot of our students are on the spectrum. So over the next 10 years, we're going to have 70,000, which says over half of these will pursue post-secondary education. We currently have grown to the number of 42. As you can see, we need a lot more programs to help these students as they go through. And these are students that have been identified by public schools. When they go to college, they don't always identify. So just FYI on that one. Okay, go to the next one. So the purpose of our program is to assist college students who are seeking degrees that either have autism spectrum disorders or other related developmental disabilities to earn a college degree or certificate in a career field of their choice, participate in related internships, and obtain meaningful employment after graduation. The full name of the program is Connecting Academic Success and Employment. And we really emphasize the employment piece because if people, and I mean, this is everybody, if you're going to spend $25,000 to $30,000 a year for your kid to go to college, you want them to be able to get a job that pays more than minimum wage. Okay? And you want to try to help them graduate as debt-free as possible as well. So we utilize a strength-based approach. And if you'll go to the next slide, it's go back. It's represented by three areas, three main functions. The learning specialists, which is my direct care staff. I have 6 of them, and they take between 8 and 10 students apiece. The Berkman Method assessment, which is a strength-based assessment that we've been blessed that in doing that and showing the results from that assessment, TWC now has that as part of their toolkit. So any student in the state that needs this type of assessment doesn't have to be in the CASE program. TWC will pay for that, and that assessment runs about $300. And then the last thing, which is what we use on a monthly basis with every student, is our wraparound team process. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. Go ahead. So who's involved? Who's on our team? Obviously students. I'm the program director, and my job is to train and coach staff and students. I've been in the field of special education for over 30 years, so a lot of my staff is really young and real enthused, but need some guidance from time to time. The learning specialists, as I mentioned, are my direct care staff. They all are degreed folks. They've all been through UNT-wise training, so they can be linked to provide support through Texas Workforce. Campus partners. We're the only program, I believe, in the state of Texas, and probably one of the few throughout the country, that serve students at a community college and a four-year university. So some of our students choose to go to a community college either at home and then transfer to Texas Tech, or they go to the community college there in the Lubbock area. So we pretty much serve about 3 campuses. Texas Tech has about 35,000 students, and I couldn't begin to tell you how big South Plains is, because they have multiple campuses all over West Texas. We also use Student Disability Services. We've partnered with them before I ever wrote the grant that I originally got funding to start the program from the Texas Council for Developmental Disabilities. I sat down with them and said, do you see a point to this program that could provide X, Y, and Z? And they said, absolutely, because we focus mostly on academic supports, and we don't have the bandwidth or enough staff that can go into teaching job skills, social skills. They do work on some executive functioning, but our students get a very individualized program. And then we have Campus Life, Student Counseling Center, the Writing Center. Most universities have all kinds of programs that they're really big on retaining students, and so we take full advantage. Our students are regular college students first. We're a support program. We're not a standalone program. Community partners, obviously employers, obviously TWC. We also tap into other community organizations such as Toastmasters. A lot of our kids are very fearful, just like most college students, of getting up in front of the class and having to speak. And so a lot of times we partner with places like Toastmasters, or if they're just wanting to do some volunteer work to get some experience, we have Habitat for Humanity. Tech has their own Ronald McDonald House associated with the medical school. So there's lots of opportunities throughout the community as well as the campus. Okay, and then the last one, of course, is families. One of the things about when you turn 18 and you go off to college is you're a full adult, supposedly. And and so mom and dad can't necessarily pick up the phone and call and get a lot of information about you. So one of the things we do is we promise our students to keep confidentiality, but if mom or dad wants to call and make sure that someone has seen you in the last 24 hours, they can call us and we can say yes. In fact, we can even call up campus connections, and they can even look up and see where you ate breakfast that morning. So, I mean, we can definitely find out if they're doing okay. Students meet with us weekly, and then once a month we have a wrap meeting, which has a team of people who bring ideas, resources, and supports to our meetings with our students. Next. This is our 3-legged stool, and I always look at it like a milk stool, old-fashioned milk stool if you're going to milk a cow. If any one of those breaks off or is not addressed properly, it's wobbly and things don't work. So these are the 3 areas I mentioned earlier. Go ahead. Here's another visual of it that we pull together resources from campus and from the community, and also working with parents to see what kind of resources they can provide. And when I say resources, I'm not talking money necessarily. A lot of the resources on campus, students have already paid for when they pay their tuition fees. And so we make sure we take advantage of all those free services, quote unquote free services, before we look at anything more in detail. So that's been a great thing. Go ahead. We use the Berkman assessment and that is utilized, it was originally utilized for the Fortune 500 companies who wanted to take a look at how to better work as in teams. And so we are using it, one of the few programs who's looked at using it with college students. And it helps us get an idea of what their strengths are, which we focus on, and use those strengths to help them problem solve when they have a challenge, whether it's academic, social, or whatever. It also gives us some career exploration, so we can look at, what types of jobs would fit you best given the way you answered the assessment. It takes about 30 to 45 minutes online. They can take it at home. They can take it in their dorm room, wherever. Okay, go ahead. The learning specialists do a lot of mentoring and coaching of our students. We work closely as a team to problem solve. Like I said, they're weekly check-ins, and they build a wrap-around team. Every team looks a little different. There's always a staff member, they're learning specialists. There's always someone from Student Disability Services. Usually the VR counselors or the TWC counselor is a part of the meeting. They can call in or they can attend the meeting in person. And then a lot of times we'll have campus advisors, sometimes faculty members. We actually have one young man who is in recovery and has a recovery specialist that comes in and is a part of the team. So we look at each student individually and what their needs are, and we have a core team that stays with them all the time, but then we add people from time to time. For example, if they're looking at, they want to change their major, we may ask someone from that college to come over and talk about the different specialties they can look at and help the student make some decisions there in the meeting. We put together a wraparound plan so that we can track their progress, and also we teach students to learn to facilitate their own team. We feel like what we've heard from employers is sooner or later we all have to work in a group, or a committee. And so we want our students to feel comfortable with themselves, but also with a variety of different types of people. And so eventually, rather than the learning specialist facilitating the team, the student takes over doing that so that they become not only self-advocates, but problem solvers and able to address different personalities. And we think that's a real important life skill. Go ahead. I won't read this to you, but I will tell you that the academic majors at Texas Tech hit all 11 different colleges. We have everything from music and theater majors to engineers, computer science folks, art, yeah. And he'll be looking for a job in August, so just let you know. Then also at the community college where they can get a certificate or an associate's degree, it's just all over the place. So one of the things we're most proud of is that we do hit some glitches once in a while with certain faculty, but for the most part, both campuses have been very open to working with our students, and our faculty have been very helpful in advising students on what areas fit them best. So again, we're not all theater majors, we're not all computer scientists, but we go all over the place, which is great. Go ahead. These are some of the internship sites that we've had. Drew actually worked for a couple of congressmen as an intern, and we've had students who recently just spent a week in Boise, Idaho in the middle of January. I did not go with them on that. HP, Hewlett-Packard, paid for all expenses, brought them up there for a week, and we're waiting patiently to see. They took 10 kids nationally, and 3 of those students were ours. They said ours were some of the most polished students they'd ever had come to something like this. And after they go through that process, then they will select students based on what internships are open throughout the country with HP's corporate offices to have a full paid internships next summer, and then they will continue to pay them and work with them while they're in college till they graduate. They wanted sophomores and juniors, so that they had some time to really get to know them and work with them. So we're pretty excited about that. But you can see some of these are on campus, some of them are off campuses, and some of them students will say, I really can't spend any more time doing anything else. I've got to focus on studies, but I'll do my internship back home. So we work with, again, TWC to look at what's available back home that they can do as an internship. Okay, go ahead. These are the different employer collaborations we've had so far. Some of them are local, some of them are at the national level, some of them are, pretty much Texas-based kinds of things. We're very excited, obviously, about the Hewlett-Packard thing. After meeting our kiddos, they said, we want to figure out how we can do a long-term program with you. We want to collaborate with your program. Southwest Airlines contacted me and asked if they could come in and talk to us and a couple of our students to see how they could set up an internship program that would specifically attract students on the spectrum, but wouldn't say the Southwest Autism Program. And so we're working closely with that. They're looking at their technical assistance department is the one who stepped up and said, we want to start here. And so companies more and more are offering internships to groom people to go to work for them, not just have a summer internship for a couple of weeks. So we're pretty excited about that. I know Jennifer Hines has worked really hard with HEB and a couple of other folks, Dell Computers there in Austin and stuff like that, that is looking at different programs to get kids jobs once they graduate. Okay, next. Okay, I'm real excited about this, and if you've not gotten multiple emails from me, because I am a horrible self-promoter for some of our programs, we are holding our 4th annual higher education think tank. And this, again, came from our original work with the Texas Council for Developmental Disabilities, because our long-term vision was to build a support network among universities to help fledgling programs get going and get started. And so in Lubbock, we'll be holding our 4th one. March 24th through the 25th. It's a gathering of individuals who are interested in either supporting programs like this or building programs, enhancing what they have, and just learning from one another. So we have a call for proposals out to get people to come in and share what they're doing, but also coming with questions of how do I get started. So I know Jennifer has signed up to come. Have you signed up, Sue? Okay, good, Sue. And then Christine's come several times.
I've come to every one of them, but this time my counterpart, Kaylin, will be.
Okay. So I don't have to browbeat you anymore. Okay. Good. The interesting thing is that we have more folks find out about this through the grapevine somehow from out of state that are coming to learn from what we are doing here in Texas. So if you're interested at all, please come. We are setting up to get state rate at a local hotel. We feed you breakfast and lunch. You're just on your own for dinner, so we make it as cheap as possible. Again, you'll get a copy of these slides so you can look that up and see if you're interested, or if you want to pass it on to other colleges or universities, education service centers, anyone who's interested in coming and joining the discussion. So please make that available to folks that you know. Okay, next. And then we've also, again, Texas Workforce has become our next best friend. Because they have asked us to put together a summer academy that's a pre-college academy that's for 16 to 22-year-olds who are thinking about going to college. So you talked about how do you reach kids who are at risk of not thinking they can go to college, and this is kind of one of our collaborative efforts. And we just started that last summer. We did it for a week, had a great time, learned a lot about how to do it differently. And so we're doing it for 2 weeks. We're a glutton for punishment. They come for a week, they stay in the dorm, we show them all over campus, we do some mock classroom activities, things like that, so they get used to what it would be like to go to college. And again, it was sponsored by Texas Workforce, so they have to be registered with Texas Workforce in order for them to pay for them to come. And it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. So making you aware that, again, sometimes you start a program for one thing and it branches off to other things that the communities and our students need. And I think this is one of those. And again, it was very nice to be approached and asked instead of me banging on the door and saying, hey, we need some money to do something else. They called us. So, and I know other colleges do this. So if you know of others, I know the University of North Texas does. Does A&M do a summer? I thought so. Yeah, okay. So there are other programs like this, and I think this is a great opportunity for families to begin to think about college because, as Rhett mentioned, a lot of times our families are hesitant and have been led to believe their kid's not capable. And I think one of the things we're learning is you don't know till you try. So the nice thing about our partnership with the community college is, you know, it's pretty easy to get into community college for the most part. And you can go and build skills and either earn a certificate or a 2-year degree and then decide if you want to go to a full-blown college. So it gives us that opportunity to give everyone a chance that wants one. Okay, next one. And that's it. Questions or concerns about our program? Anybody have questions? The nice thing too, again, we started with nothing and wrote a grant for Texas Council for Developmental Disabilities. It was a 5-year grant. We started with like 4 or 5 kids, and we're now up to 42. We anticipate we'll have at least 50. We've run out of space for me to have staff unless I can lower them from the ceilings and just let them hang out there. So it's not that and we want to keep the ratio low so it stays very individualized. But the main thing is we really need other universities and colleges to step up and start taking some of these students because they really, really teach you a lot, and it's a very good idea to have them on your campus. I think it helps everyone be more sensitive to individuality. Okay, Drew and Red, I'm going to put y'all on the spot. Is there anything that you'd like to share about what you liked or didn't like about going to college and how maybe CASE helped you?
May you go first? Yeah, I was actually going to cut on in myself, but yeah, CASE has been quite a trip for me. I gotta say, I think one of the coolest things about CASE is they actually try to make the students that they're helping be in charge as possible. In their RAP meetings they try to make it to where they transition it to where the people that end up running it is more the student instead of the instructors, the advisors, everybody like that, to where you're in charge of everything. And sometimes, like in a lot of my own experiences, it goes above and beyond. CASE has a bunch of experiences to where they enjoy giving some students some fun moments, some activities. Basically to make sure during all that studying and hard work, you get some time to relax, have a good time. So one of the coolest things they did for me is, how many of you are aware of tabletop role-playing games, particularly Dungeons and Dragons?
We got one.
Okay. Okay, that's good. That's good. Okay, so I'm a fan. I like role playing and I like math. So when I was going to this college, I was a little worried. It's like I would love to get into a Dungeons and Dragons campaign, but I mean, I go to the big place, there's like 15 players for one DM, and I was like, no. But I talked to one of my instructors at the time, named Jared, and he ended up helped setting me up to host a Dungeons and Dragons one-off at the Burkhardt Center. He sort of had the reins for some of the part, but I had a few say in things, helped do advertising, stuff like that. And it was an overall success. When we did that, I ended up finding a long-term campaign for that, and another group had made a long-term campaign out of that. And that was really fulfilling to me. And now we're doing that again this year, and I'm pretty much in charge of this one. So it's like, the fact that they let me do this for their group is pretty stellar to me. Just that they let me help with all this. I can't thank them enough for that, because I feel like I actually have some decent leadership skills that I never think I would have figured out without doing this. So I have to thank Dr. Litzenberger for that. It's been an honor. It's been a ride.
Thank you, Rhett. And I will say leadership is something that most of our students have not had the opportunity to explore, and it comes out in different ways, and that's one of them. And so, like he mentioned, we try to put together some events that they can come to and learn to socialize. And one of the first things we figured out was if we take them places where they go bowling or anything like that, they don't really talk to each other. But if you play any kind of table games, then you have to talk to each other. And so, and they actually really like that. We're not playing Chutes and Ladders anymore, though, ladies and gentlemen, and Candyland is out. But we are playing some other types of games, which are way over my head, but thank goodness they understand them. So, Drew, do you want to add anything to that?
I appreciate everything you did with Project Case. It really helped me with my employment search and everything. And she is wonderful. I just want to say that.
I'll pay you later.
Yeah, she is awesome. And I enjoyed my entire experience at Tech with the Project Case and the Technic Center and everybody there. And it was just excellent. I couldn't have enjoyed it more.
One of the things Drew did that really knocked our socks off initially was we set up for him to do an internship. He was real interested in political science as one of his fields with Randy Nagebauer in his office, because I had a friend who I went to church with who worked in his office. And so Drew did an internship there, and then he went home for the summer and liked it so much, he went to, what's his name? Jeb Henserling's office on his own and said, hey, I worked for Nagebauer for a semester. Can I come and volunteer and work in your office? And so those are the kind of things that make us feel like we're on the right track when students start to self-advocate and also are self-determined about what they care about. Drew's also showing us the struggles that our students have in finding jobs when they get out, because again, we all had those first jobs that were not our dream jobs, but we're really trying to keep our kids out of what I call food, flowers, and filth jobs, because those are usually minimum wage, and our kids want to save money for a car and an apartment and all those things that every other college student dreams of. So again, anybody that's in the market to make money, I don't know that there's really money in it, but it would be very fulfilling, would be to set up some type of job placement agency that specifically works with individuals who have disabilities. And I know TWC does that, but I know that for our students, it's more professional white-collar jobs that they're looking for, and that's really hard to find when you're working with Texas Workforce and their connections. They do the best they can, but we need other people helping us. So, any other questions for us? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I really appreciated that presentation. Next, we will hear from Sue at Houston Community College and the work that they are doing with their VAST Academy.
Put this on. Hello, thank you. Thank you. That was wonderful, Deanne. It's exciting to be a part of this group. VAST, as you can see, Houston Community College is actually gearing up for their 50th anniversary, but VAST is going to be doing our 30th anniversary this coming year in conjunction with ADA 30th anniversary. So it's exciting to see where we were, where we've come, how far we've come, and where we're going in the future. And this is exciting here in Texas. Or who's doing the, yeah, go ahead. Okay. I forgot who was doing the slides. Okay. Okay, so, excuse me, we did a few years back celebrate our 25th anniversary, and we were excited to receive recognition from our mayor, Sylvester Turner. We had a kind of like a little gala celebration. Most of the individuals on the picture are students and graduates of our VAST Academy that we highlighted. So that was exciting, but this is basically our mission where we are right now. We are a post-secondary program, transition and comprehensive support services that lead to meaningful credentials, employment, and independence for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. This is one of our mottos that we've had for quite a few years, education plus employment equals independence. That's our main goal for our students. This is a little video. It's only 2 minutes. I thought you might like it.
Being in the VAST Academy had taught me independence and technology.
I'm blessed that you guys give me an opportunity to expand my potential.
To become more independent and confident.
achieve my goals in life and spread my wings and fly.
You want me to do the chain car tumbler? You want me to run that special this week? When am I going to get the recipe? Okay, tomorrow. Okay. Get the recipe. I didn't get it out there. Get it out of my mind. Okay. Get it off your mind and get it to me. After a year now, he's giving me tasks. He's giving me recipes that I need to be using in order to sell.
This is a signature program for our college, and it's something that needs to be spread throughout to serve the whole citizen. What this program has accomplished in the last 25 years is nothing short of miraculous, including being recognized by the Department of Education for having a model program.
The VAST Academy helps me with work so I can gain a lot of experience and know a lot of new things that's going on and see what's out there.
The VAST Academy is an award-winning program, nationally award-winning. We're celebrating 25 years, and this type of programs are sorely needed in our community. Oftentimes, they don't get the funding that they need. It's really important that we reach out to get funding and resources for programs like this. The kids are evaluated and programs are matched up with their capabilities, and the kids really are given the opportunity to expand to the best of what they can do. And when that happens, it's fulfilling for not only the student, but for the entire family, because oftentimes students in this program depend on their families for a lot of resources and support. You don't have to ask or know too far down your chain of friends somebody that can benefit from this program.
That was just a little 2 minutes. Since I can't bring our students, I like that little video because it has, you hear from the students. We have a 2-year, VAST has been around for so many years, but I would say in 2010, 11, when we got one of the TIPSID grants from the Department of Ed, we kind of reevaluated where we were at that time, and the program changed a little bit, and we were life skills in the early years. Then we became vocational. And so we were trying to look at what can we do to create a meaningful credential. And so we put together a 2-year certificate, occupational skills. It is a career readiness curriculum, and it does fall in line with the 60-30 goal of marketable skills, because a lot of what's required there for all students, that's kind of the kinds of skills that we are focusing on enhancing with our students. And but you can see there, it's a 2-year program, and we have core courses. They're all CEU, workforce. We're under the workforce division and the School of Continuing Ed. But those are the primary areas that we work on: communication and customer service, occupational math. We want to enhance their computers, computer knowledge, computer literacy. Career exploration is huge, of course. We do a lot with that. A lot of the soft skills, career readiness, we do. And then, of course, we have an internship. The internship is optional because some of our students are moving on to other programs when they finish. But if they want an internship, we have over 50 employer partners now that we work with for those internships. And it's a 200-hour internship. And basically, we also have a retail training certificate that our students can also do, and it's an online program as well as out in the field. We have different employers near the different college campuses that the students can go out and actually get experience working in retail as well as the online part. And one of the newest partners we've been working with now, and we're piloting this because they want to take it to other colleges, is Barnes & Noble. The Barnes & Noble bookstore on campus is now doing a retail training program with our students, and they're getting ready to expand now to 2 other of our, so there'll be 3 campus locations that are doing that on campus, and they want to take that, they want to take that to the other colleges where they have Barnes & Noble bookstores on college campuses, so we're excited about that. And then, of course, we also have work keys at HCC, and we have tapped into that, and many of our students have actually gotten one of those career readiness credential certificates from Work Keys. We actually have a course where we help the students to prepare for that certification. They have like a silver, gold, and a bronze, and a bronze, silver, gold. I forget which way that goes, but the gold is the highest. And then, of course, What we're getting into, I think, more now, that we're really looking at now, is assisting our students to transition to these other, to the college credit programs and CE, continuing ed workforce programs, because that's ultimately, we don't want to keep, like we were talking earlier, we don't want to keep creating special programs, special certificates. We want to get our students into the programs that already exist, into those areas, so they can get those critical, skills, workforce skills that lead to competitive employment. So that's basically where we're at right now. These are some of the support services. We do a lot of, counseling, advising. We have a formal admission process. We do person-centered planning, the internships, employment, but peer mentoring is also big. Years ago, we started with Phi Theta Kappa organization, and now we're very big with our honors college, because Houston Community College has an honors college, and so we do have a peer mentoring service learning program with the honors college to mentor and tutor our students. Student life is always huge. In the early years, that was how we got our students more involved in what was going on campus, was getting them involved in student life. So we created the Eagles Club organization, but there's, the students, we encourage them to get involved in many of the organizations on campus, student government, and one of the newest initiatives that's been going on now for a couple years, and it's growing, is our unified sports with HCC Sports and Rec, and we were going to partner with Special Olympics to do this, and it turned out that when we started exploring it, we were already doing it, without being Special Olympics. So we're excited about our unified sports effort. They do softball, basketball, field hockey. It's a whole list of, and so our students are participating with other students in these, and they're having games, competitions, and it's kind of exciting. We also do travel training. Excuse me, it's my allergies. Travel training is something we do if we see it's a need. Sometimes, the greater Houston area is kind of large, and so some students live in the greater area, and we don't want transportation to be an issue getting, to an employment site or internship site, and we don't want them to depend on their parents for everything. So we do assist them with learning how to, ride Metro and that kind of thing if they need that, so they can be more independent. And of course, the transition, we've always helped connect our students to college, but I think now we're looking at how we can do a better job of that, how we can get, how we can create something a lot more structured. Just vast being on campus, we kind of just automatically become that. But now we're looking at how we can take that a step further. And we have reached out to University of Houston Clear Lake Center for Autism, their Connecting to College program, and we are looking at possibly partnering with them to start doing that. Autism Allies, training with faculty. I'd love to do some, replicate some of the things that you do, Deanne, or partner with you even at Texas Tech, because I think that we want to now look at how more of our students can go into other programs in the college and be included, fully included, rather than in a segregated type program. But we even, with what we have done, we were able to have many of our alumni actually successfully complete associate degrees. We've had students get associate degrees in culinary, childcare, business, technology, welding through the years, and in the last 5 years, I think there's about 10 or 12 that have gotten some, and many of them, over 20 or 30, have gotten certificates, regular, workforce certificates. Last weekend, we presented at Family to Family Conference, and we had a student panel, and we had students, and one of our students that actually got her associate degree. I mean, it's a true story of self-determination, because she started in VASS with a second grade reading level, took developmental, got certificates in child development, went on, got her associate degree. Now she's working on her bachelor's degree to become a teacher. So I think that, starting there with us gave her that push, that confidence so that she could go on. These are just some of, this was actually prepared. We had our board meeting recently that wanted to get an update on our program, so I just included some of these from our board meeting. But it just kind of gives you an idea. If you go back to our first graduation, 1992, we had 50 graduates, but the program was very different back then. It was more life skills.
And it has, now we're truly vocational workforce. But if you look from 2014 till now, you can see the amount of students that we do serve each year. And we have 3 college campuses now. When we first started, we were just at 1 campus. Now we have 3, and we're actually looking now at expanding to 2 more. So hopefully those numbers will also go up. As far as completion, not all of our students, I would say the majority complete our program, but we've had students, just like Christine was talking about, at Austin Steps program, some of our students are using our program as a transition to other programs, and they may not stay for the whole entire vast 2 years. They may just take some classes and then move on. And so those are, there you can see the number of graduates we've had and how we have 83 that are set to graduate this year in May. So you can see the numbers are growing. And then, of course, our internships are, I think because we are a workforce-driven program, the internship is huge with us and creating more employer partners. And we, like I said, we already have over 60, but we continue to need more because our students have a broad range of interests. And we don't want to just have internships with, if one time I had a student that said, I want to be a paleontologist. So, we want to find internships for everybody based on their interests and skills. So we're always looking for new internship sites. Some of the most popular internship sites are MD Anderson. They've now hired 5 of our students full-time in dining services. And they've now branched out to room service and office skills area. The VA, we do have patient escorts, Texas Children's Hospital, we had Shriners, TIER, and then, a lot of the school districts, the Rise School of Houston has hired 6 of our students as classroom assistants. So those are just some of the employers that we work with the internships and as well as employment. Now, these numbers, because we're constantly working with our students, sometimes it takes longer for some than others. I mean, when they graduate, they may not do the internship till the following fall. And then we continue to work with them. So in any given year, we're working with students, not only that just graduated, but we may be still working with students from the year before, trying to get them employment. But as you can see, our numbers have gone up as far as those who have completed internships and those who've participated. Okay, next. And these are the primary areas, but there's more. But this is primary, and childcare is big. We have many students that want to do childcare, be teacher assistants. Retail, of course, is huge. And, like I said, we also have that retail training program. Hospitality, baking, pastry chef. Some of our students go into culinary, but the student that you saw working at Phoenicia Deli, he didn't go into culinary. He just came from Vast and, did an internship there. And they've hired 2 of our students at Phoenicia Deli, and they continue to be an internship site for our retail program. And then health, so you can see all those. Employment data, this is the employment kind of where we're at now. When you see 3, that's 3 that were employed right when they first graduated. Most of those graduates now that graduated this past year, we're working with them now on internships and employment. Next. These are just some of the historical highlights that happened. 2002, we got the first President's New Freedom Initiative Award from the Department of Labor. Then we got the TIPSID. These are kind of like the milestones. Because of our efforts with our Access College Texas Consortium, we were recognized by the Texas House of Representatives along with Austin Steps and Texas Tech. And I don't think that was the end, was it? No. What happened? Oh. And I think what else was on there, we've been excited because the last 2 years we've gotten Texas Workforce Commission, Bulk Rehab, also had a grant that we applied for, and we were one, I forget how many now, it's increased 2 years in a row, but we've gotten a grant to do an Explore STEM summer camp. And this will be the 3rd summer now that we're contracting with TWC to do these Explore Summer STEM camps, and it's for pre-ETS funding, students from ages 14 to 22. with disabilities, this particular one. And we've done robotics, Apple Swift coding, build a PC. And they're only 1 week each camp, and they work in teams, and they built a computer from scratch. They've learned how to code and create programs in Apple Swift coding, and they've also built robotic. Started to learn the beginning levels of robotics. So I was just showing you some of the highlights there. Next. And then this is exciting. We are so excited about this. This is happening in 2 weeks. I am going to Vienna along with my Director of Employment and our Chancellor, and we are going to Vienna, Austria to receive an award at a global conference at the UN. This is I didn't even know about this conference until we were encouraged to apply by one of our funding sources. Our May and Stanley Foundation in California had told us about it. And we applied, and we're going to be I think we're one of about 71 programs around the world that are going to be recognized. And I feel like, when we go there, I feel like we're not just going there for Houston Community College FAST Academy. We're going there to represent Texas. And it actually says Texas in the, they put that in there. And we're representing the United States. We're representing Think College and what's happening right now with this whole movement. So we're really, really excited about going there and learning from what is going on in other countries and how we can share our best practices. So we're real excited about that. And these are some of the future developments. Of course, we are in the process of trying to get that CTP, financial aid. We need that. We are looking at developing more seamless pathways for our students to get into more workforce. And the COE programs, that is an abbreviation for Center of Excellence, because at Houston Community College, we have many centers of excellence, and getting our students into those programs. And then, of course, looking at possibly, we have met with the University of Houston Clear Lake Center for Autism Connecting to College, and that is one that we're really hoping to be able to either work with them or replicate that. And then we are looking at expanding to other campuses. And then we're also exploring the universities in our area, because we do have University of Houston, UHCL, we have University of Houston downtown, we have connections with Rice University and St. Thomas, and some of these we've already had small partnerships on small projects with in the past, but now we're looking at how we can get these universities to offer, it could be concurrent enrollment, or we could work with them. So we're just exploring those possibilities right now. I think, is that it? That might be it. Yeah, so that's it. So that's kind of where we are today, so thank you.
Thank you so much, Sue. And I would be remiss if I didn't offer myself to tag along with you to Vienna, Austria. If you need some lowly state employees, I guess I can do it, right? But thank you so much for that presentation and the great things that you all are doing for the Houston community. And as you said, it's not just about the Houston Community College, but the things that you all are doing, even for the state of Texas. And so we really appreciate that. And last but not least, we are going to hear from Chris, who serves as the Director for Skills Training and Education for Personal Success, also known as STEPS. And that program is housed here at the Austin Community College. And so I will turn it over to Chris so she can talk to us a little bit more about the STEPS program.
I guess I should put on my mic. I almost forgot. So hi, I'm Christine Price. I go by Chris. If you get an email back from me, it'll always say Chris. I always joke that I'm just not a Christine, I'm a Chris. So the STEPS program has been around a while. It stands for Skills, Training, and Education for Personal Success. Before it was the STEPS program, and we're going to go through that in a second. Actually, you can go to the next slide. It'll explain that. It was the VOCAP program, which was also at ACC. And before that, it was called Technology and Inclusion. And it had started, I was not with them at that point, so this is all hearsay. A group of parents, I want to say at Westlake High School, somewhere out west, had wanted a college experience for their students, and so they launched the first class in 2004, and they served 18 and over, so that we don't have a cutoff, which is a little bit unique. I'm sorry, I'm having allergies as well today. Yay, we live in Texas this time of year. And so it was wonderful, and they were housed more like renting a room at ACC. And in 2009, ACC actually took ownership of the program, and it was called the VOCAT program at that point. And that is when Mariah Lossing, my mentor, took over the program, and then a year later I joined. So before I joined, there was only 3 classes that they offered: clerical, technology, and for the life of me, I can't remember the last one. Oh, academics, the obvious one. And there was only 5 students and 1 part-time teacher. I think Deanne or somebody had said that that's how most of these programs start. So it is true. You start with a few students and a hope and a prayer and a part-time person. And then I came on in 2010, January 2010, as the second teacher. And Mariah and I worked side by side, teaching and building the program. We both taught. And now we have 20 classes over 4 campuses. We were at 5, but ACC closed one of our campuses, so our south location, unfortunately. So we are at 4 campuses and have 20 classes and probably over 80 students each semester, or 80 students each semester. So it's been amazing to see the program grow. I took over the program 3 years ago. Before that, I was the assistant director. And you can go ahead and switch. So this shows a little bit of the growth. Back in 2010, when I started, we just had a handful of students in 2 classrooms, 15 to 25 students, and then it grew significantly over the next few years. And then the last couple years, you'll see that it's kind of plateaued, and that is because our focus has been less on growing the program at the moment. We still have new students coming in and out, but as far as expanding to other campuses, what we're working on now is revising each and every one of our courses, because, like I said before, there was no curriculum when these programs were started. We have built all the curriculum ourselves, and with other colleges that are here today. And so we just wanted to make sure that me and my counterpart, Kaylin, my assistant director, we wanted to make sure that what we were teaching was what the students needed to be successful in employment and in their lives. So we are revising all of the curriculum, adding new curriculum right now. So that is our focus. This coming fiscal year, academic year, we are going to start expanding to other places, not just other ACC campuses. We're actually thinking about reaching out and expanding to other places that need programs like this. If you know anything, Dallas has very little as far as secondary education options. And so I have been talking to a couple people in Killeen and Waco to see if maybe we can get a program out there to help with some of the rural areas. And I think, Jolene, you had mentioned that was a need, and we have seen that need as well. So ACC works out in the community as well, bringing classes to communities that are underserved. That is, ACC has programs in the Lockhart jail, so prison. They go wherever it's needed, and so that's what we're looking to do. So I've been working with that coordinator at ACC to start bringing it more out into the rural areas. And even they're talking about bringing it into the jails because there's a high population of people with disabilities as well. And so they asked me if I would be willing to teach a course out there, and I said absolutely. So so that'll be interesting. But yeah, so we're still growing, and now I feel like we've revamped most of our classes now. I think we have 3 more, so we'll be continuing to grow. Next slide. All right, our mission is to provide a path for students with intellectual and developmental disabilities to cultivate a successful future by valuing each student's unique ability and developing their individual potential. We provide educational enrichment and the skills necessary for meaningful employment, and that has been something I keep hearing from each one of us, and I really love that. Meaningful employment, not just 4 hours a week, which is great, but we want more, right? We want more. Our students want more. So something in their interest. So if they're interested in art, can we find them something in art? Some sort of employment and get them some art courses under their belt. And that's what we mean by meaningful. We really look at the student, what their interests are, and skills, and try to find something that fits along that path. Our students graduate with confidence, self-reliance, and the tools to become a vital member of the community. So on average, our students are with us about 2 years. Like I said, that's on average. I've had students with us a couple semesters, and I have a student who's been with me. He's actually in my class because I'm teaching some courses right now. And I was joking that he was there when I began, which isn't true, but but almost. He's been there 7 years. But he's great. He has a job. He loves his life, and he wants it to stay just like this. And we're like, that's fine. And he pays for his own courses with his job, which is really neat. And then, so we always can encourage our students. Sorry, it's after lunch and my brain has went to sleep. I'm like, come on, brain, get together. We always can encourage them to go on to higher learning past our program. So the goal is to at least get them to graduate our program and get them some employable skills. But if they would like to go on, we would like to find that path for them. We've also had one student who graduated from our program, then went on and got his associates, then transferred that to a bachelor's. And so we're really proud of him. And when he first came to us, he was so debilitatingly shy, he answered questions in class by texting me. So, and then at our graduation, he gave the speech. So if that tells you anything. So he just really needed to come out of his shell. And once he did that, there was no stopping him. So we're really excited that we have the opportunity to push students to go on beyond us as well. And go ahead. So our enrollment, really I tell students, they just have to be 18 and older and have a documented disability. Mostly that's the only criteria. We do ask that they can travel to and from class independently or come with an attendant. And no recent histories of suspension or expulsion, but that's really, if you work on a campus, college campus, you know that there's a zero violence policy, which is great and definitely needed, but our students sometimes, some of their actions could come across as violent when it's not meaning to be. So we just make sure if they have any of those kind of behaviors that they have an attendant, a behavioral attendant who comes with them to get them off of campus for their protection, really, because if it were to get the campus police work to be called, they could be kicked off campus permanently. And so we would never want to put our students in that kind of jeopardy. So that's why that's in there. A lot of parents get nervous about that, but we say no, severe behavior issues, but only because we want to make sure those supports are in place before they come. All right, next slide. All right. When I first started, there were 3 classes. There was academic skills, administrative procedures, which used to be called clerical, and computer fundamentals, which used to be called technology. And those were the 3 classes we had. Now we offer all these courses and even summer courses. So we offer academics, computer, professionalism in the workplace, administrative procedures, retailing, business English, business math, workplace communication, career exploration and planning, transition to work, financial planning. That course I think everybody in America should take. But it's basically your own budget and the troubles of credit cards and things like that. And then healthy relationships, we've actually began to offer with the help of UT. They have a wonderful, will you pronounce her last name for me? There it is. And she's taught that course for us. We have offered it one time, and it was great. The students who took it loved it, and we have so much request. So if we can get that running again, that'll be great. And we also started last summer. I just love hearing the other presentations because we're all about on the same track, even if we haven't spoke to each other in a while. So we started offering summer classes last summer, and we offered a transportation course, a community transit course, and a nutrition course, and stress management. So, and they were 2-week courses where the transportation course, we got on the bus. We planned one day, and then we got on the bus and we took a trip, and the students had to run it. So showed them how to navigate. We did it. I taught that course. It was so much fun. Gained a little bit of weight because we planned eating trips every time. So, but yes, it was wonderful. We went and ate at a little coffee shop on the lake there in Austin. We did all kinds of fun things, but they were learning a very valuable skill. And so it was really fun. We did start that as a 2-week course. We are going to run it again this summer, but I realized very quickly that needs to be a much longer course because we really could only touch on riding the bus in 2 weeks. So, so we are expanding that to a 5-week course. This summer, we are offering those same courses, but we are also offering it's a digital dating course, but I can't think of what I'm calling it. I developed it and I forgot it. No, but it's a course what we have noticed is over the last year, we got a lot of calls from our compliance officer of our students who were trying to date, approaching other students on the campus, and just not going about it in the most pro-social way. And so I worked with them to make sure that, that the council that was investigating also understood that this wasn't coming from a malicious intent. It was coming from they just didn't know what they were doing. And so we have decided that this is a course they need. And so in this, dangers of dating in the digital world, it came to me. So because the student was like, well, how do I go about dating? And I was like, oh man, I don't know. So in this world of Tinder and all this, I'm like, oh, no way would I want my students on Tinder or any of these other dating sites. So, so we are developing this course, and hopefully a lot of our students will take it. We're really excited. Parents seem to be excited. Students seem to be nervous, so which I think is normal. And so we are just keep adding classes as we see a need. So that's what we've been doing with the summer courses. Next slide. And then you can keep going. We actually have our students continue on past us. It used to be something that we just did student to student. If they were interested in floral design or welding or para-ed course, we would, push them to do that. And we would walk them through and meet with the other coordinators of those programs and get them set up with the supports through SAS and all of that. And then we just realized, very much the same as the Vast Academy did, that we need to make this a specific pathways for our students. So we took all the ones that our students have been very successful in, and we created pathways for those. And we have about 10 now. And it's a booklet that we hand out that we already know the steps to get you from point A to point B. But we still have students come with other ideas. Somebody, GSI, they came and they said, we want to do GSI. And I'm like, what is that? Well, apparently it's computer digital mapping. And I did not know anything. So I learned a lot because I had to meet with the department head of that. And they're still taking those courses and doing well. So, but these are just the ones that we know have worked in the past, and we've already created pathways. So we have the paraeducator, which they could be a tutor in the school or work in a daycare, administrative assistant series, medical office support, computer applications, marketing, welding, event planning, floral and fashion design, customer service representative. So, and we just keep expanding this list, but we're really excited that we were able to get these pathways approved through the college, and we have a book, and it went into publication this last in 2019, so we're really excited about that. So we've been talking about funding options, and I really, really want to pick Sue's brain on the CTP because I've been looking into that myself and have a lot of questions. So currently, our funding is scholarships from Ruby's Rainbow and other places. Autism Speaks, I think, has given some scholarships to some students. TWC is probably our largest funder. We have payment plans. We have a scholarship that we're always trying to get creative to put money in. Different waivers, so there's deaf blind waiver, foster waiver, veterans, and the Texas Tomorrow Fund will also work with our program. And then this is just the contact information. So I'm Christine Price, and then Kaylin Vivier. I always tease her because I always say Bivier, and she's like, it's not that fancy. These are our contacts. She is amazing, and I really don't know how the program would run without her. She's my details person. So I feel like on a team you have to have like big ideas and details person. So I'm a little bit of both, but definitely more big ideas. So she's amazing, and she will be the one who will be attending the think tank. And another plug for that, if you haven't been, it will reignite your passion. But yeah, we have actually 2 websites, which seems weird. So we have the website with the college, and that is the continue.austin cc.edu/steps. It is just one page, and we don't have a lot of options to change that. So we asked the college if we could have another website outside, and they said basically as long as it didn't cost money. So I found this free site, and that one has all of the information that I've talked about today and lots of resources as well on there. So it's a wealth of information and lots of pictures of our wonderful students. So thank you so much. And I'm so very excited to be part of this council, and everybody has had different terms, but I call it, this is the next revolution. And I'm so glad that we are all coming together to be soldiers in that. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris. We really appreciate that, and I appreciate the work of all the presenters to highlight the programs that we have around the state.
Ms. Rhoda, can I ask her a question before?
Yes, please, Linda.
Hi, I'm Linda Litzenberger. 2 of my friends started a Disability Chamber of Commerce as part of their Partners in Policy Making project. And I'm just wondering, you were talking about rural, if if the next partners group, if there were some people that were rural, because it blankets the whole state, and they wanted to start one, would that be of interest or a way for you to gain access to a rural area?
Yeah, to help them start a program in a rural
Yeah,
area?
I mean, because employers would be part of that Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm just thinking of it.
very, very much interested. Sorry. I believe Mariah actually has helped other programs. I think she helped Palo Alto start. And so we're very, I actually have a presentation where I talk about all of these programs, all of the 11 that are on Think College, because I always say I don't have ego in this. I really just want students to be able to. So absolutely, we can't be everywhere, and Texas is way too big. So let's start as many programs as we can. And I would love to do that, yeah.
Okay. I'm just thinking about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hi, this is Jolene Sanders. I have a comment and a question. First of all, I love the fact that healthy relationships is included. I think the population that we're talking about often does not have access prior to this to developmentally appropriate or, a curriculum that also may take into consideration communication differences. So I just wanted to say I love that, and as a parent, I love that. And then I had a question, and this is, I guess, for any of the programs. I'm just thinking about the space itself, the classroom. Like, how is that set up for success? Like, does it take into consideration things like sensory differences? Or, sorry, go ahead.
I can answer for ACC. So ACC, so we just use classrooms that ACC, any course would use, and they are always very blank. There's nothing on the walls. It's already very, just because so many different programs use the classrooms, it just is set up like that. The classrooms are very, void of a bunch of sensory things around. A lot of our classrooms are just computers, desk, and chairs, and and then the projector. I'm like, what is that called? The media, yeah. And so it is very already just as a blank slate. Then we will lower, a lot of times I will lower the lights because the fluorescent lights bug me just as much. I have severe combined type ADHD, so it really, like, I can't go into Target, or Target I can go into, I can't go into Walmart. So, it's like, I get those things, and so, yeah, we already do that. And so if a student is asking for that, a lot of times we have headphones, or we actually encourage students to bring their own headphones because the buds tend to block out more. So they can wear headphones while they're working independently. So lots of different ways that we do that, and that's how we do it, so I'm not sure. Okay, yeah.
This is Deanne Litzenberger. The Burkhart Center is a separate building on the campus. It's located in conjunction with the College of Education. And as such, it also has a clinical setting. So we have clinical rooms. We actually have a room that's padded for someone who might be having a meltdown to keep them from hurting themselves. And the building has been designed, we don't have fluorescent lights in it. The building's designed to be very sensory friendly, I guess I should say. So we serve students that are like from infants to old age, as you will. So we have to have lots of different types of equipment in the building and lots of different kinds of settings where people will feel comfortable regardless of what their needs are in that regard. So that's how we're set up. But otherwise, the students attend class in regular classrooms. However, we do a lot of our meetings in the Burkhart Center, and the students are welcome to come there if they're having difficulty and need a safe space to be. I also wanted to address the fact that, again, it sounds like I never do anything but talk to TWC and Texas Council for Developmental Disabilities, and some days that's true. We also have just been granted a grant to do a project called The Facts of Life. That was the original title of mine. I couldn't think of anything else. To talk about sexual health and healthy relationships. It's a train the trainer model. I will send stuff to you guys to send out to these folks that we're looking to have community teams, and it can be, you know, the Chamber of Commerce, it can be a school district, it can be a number of different entities that we are coming out to do a 2-day train the trainers. You'll get copies of the curriculum, and for 2 days get training from our director and some other folks about how to present this material to help students as well as families have these kind of discussions. We're looking for groups that will include trainers that are parents, as well as professionals, as well as self-advocates. So if you're interested in that, I'll be sending that to you guys. I didn't have that in my slides. We're set up to do it for 3 years for a minimum of 2 each year. So if you're interested, we're actually doing a phone call, technical assistance call on Monday that I can give you that information, or if you give me your information, your email address or whatever, I can have my assistant send it to you so you can listen in, details of how to apply. We're hoping to do way more than 2 a year, but right now that's what we're charged with. And then the 3rd day of the training, we actually have the trainers that we just trained for 2 days work with our staff to do a training for the whole community. So it gives them the opportunity to practice with us the first 2 days and then actually do the training with hopes that then they will continue to train in their area, in their region. We've also co-located some folks in the geographic regions of Texas who can assist us as we do co-training, so that there's someone local that folks can reach out to besides just Texas Tech faculty. So if you're interested in that, let me know. Amy, did you have a question?
I have an ill-formed thought that I wanted to share before I lost it. In the college arena, university arena, and in our LEAs, we have these common core standards. We have the national curriculum, et cetera. And I'm listening to the programs. I'm reflecting on our program. I'm familiar with DeLune's program. And I'm wondering, I've never seen anything like this on Think College. I'm wondering if we could come up with some standardized learning objectives focused on employment, self-determination, conflict management, you know, work readiness, whatever it is. You know, some programs are employment focused, some are more university-like focused, that we could assess pre and post growth of our Texas programs, but then also, I guess it really wouldn't be enforceable, but encourage this common set of objectives to create a well-rounded, just like colleges do, just like universities do. Because right now, we're all creating these programs from scratch. You know, oh, why aren't we sharing stuff? Why aren't we trying to create some alignment where if you finish this, you can go here? And that's kind of where I am in my.
I'll give you a thought about that. I mean, certainly I would encourage people to have those kind of conversations at our think tank each year. My concern, I can see us putting out some what I would call guiding principles. I don't know that I'd feel comfortable with doing objectives, mainly because I don't want people to feel like there's a standardized way to do this. I think every community and every entity that creates one of these programs, it has to be something that responds to the need in that community. And I'll give an example. ACC, you understand what I'm saying?
I do understand what you're saying, but I hope you understand what I'm saying is that we can all shoot from the hip, and some hips are going to be on target and some are going to miss.
Right.
And I'm wondering how we could, I just don't know how to say, I know individuality is great and all that.
Well, and the other thing is just, I mean, again, the programs are focused on different things. So, I mean, like I said, you could do some basic guiding principles, but they'd have to be pretty general, because otherwise you're going to be driving everybody to be more cookie cutter, and I don't think that's going to work.
Sue Maraska, Houston Community College. There are standard benchmarks that we have
all of the TIPSIDs, I guess you don't have to be a TIPSID, but those that got those grants back in 2010 and are continuing through Think College. Think College has the standard benchmarks, and we do follow those. And I believe all of the programs, whether you do it intentionally or not, I can guarantee that we are following most of those. But I'd be more than happy to share those with you. But maybe that is, I like the idea of, because we can look at those benchmarks and then
That'd be
see if
great.
there's something we want to add to that for us, because there isn't one cookie cutter, right? We're all,
And we don't need to reinvent the wheel.
No,
They've already
no.
got something. And again, the CTPs,
that too.
yeah, I mean, some of us won't qualify to be one of those because we already can get federal funding.
Right.
So, again, I think we can look at that, plus Think College, if that's a broader national program, we might want to look at their model.
I do like Amy's idea regarding collecting some data. That part I think I like. I think the coordinating board is collecting some of the data, but if we are council would inform that, and they'll have some kind of a data collection questions added to that, so that will help us, all the programs, collect a certain information. So we want to leverage the funding, the personnel you have, maybe helping us collecting some follow-up data or some others. So maybe that part I like the suggestion from Amy.
Yeah. That's a great suggestion.
I can tell you what they are if you want to hear. Okay, Sue Maraska. Academic access, career development, self-determination, campus membership, alignment with college systems and practices, standard and coordination and collaboration, and sustainability and ongoing evaluation. So
that was what again? I want to make sure.
those are the Think College standard benchmark standards for the programs that are being created under that, for students with intellectual disabilities. But I think, that's something to look at, and we could, yeah.
I was going to say, those sound broad enough that we could, even though we're all doing similar things, but in very, different ways, those are broad enough things that we could, titles that we could look at and see, do we need to add to it? Is there?
Or even just give examples of those, so that, again, if you're a program that's non-credit, it's one thing, and if you're a regular program that's just support, it's another thing, but give some examples.
And Kate was referring earlier to this accreditation that they've been working on for quite a while, trying to see if we can have some type of accreditation for these types of programs,
Good deal. Any other questions about the programs that have been presented? I, again, enjoyed the presentations, as I did enjoy the conversation that they also yielded, and I wanted to make sure that we didn't have any other additional questions. I want to be respectful of time, so we have about less than 10 minutes till 2 o'clock, which will be the time that I informed you all that the meeting would end, and so I want to do a couple things in that space if we can. You have a question, Chris? I know, time flies when you're having fun. Yes. And so when we discuss the work, as I mentioned earlier, the balance of this work is not going to be done in this room, as you all probably could also expect. And so what I plan to do is work with Chair Litzenberger to do a couple things. One, again, we may be able to divvy out this work in terms of having different committees. And then I know that we would also need to know what those particular committees will be. Off the top of my head, and I don't trust the top of my head as much, so I'm not asking you all to trust the top of my head, but just trying to decipher through a lot of things I've heard here today. The things that come to mind immediately is perhaps the need to have a committee that is focused on data, one perhaps that is focused on recruitment and outreach, one that perhaps could examine various policies, one that could examine student resources at institutions, a program committee that could do two things. One, be very familiar with all of the programs here in the state, and then, of course, have an opportunity to do a little bit what Amy is saying in terms of how do they evaluate themselves to make sure that they're doing the things that they said that they are doing. Perhaps a workforce committee, and then, of course, a barriers and opportunities committee. Now, again, we can have none of these committees. I just wanted to throw out things to get us to think. Now, I will say this, however, when we think about the report, we pretty much have to do two things. One, we have to be very diligent in the way that we present information in terms of the data, right? So the persistence rates and retention rates and graduation rates and college going rates and the programs that already exist. We have to do that per the Senate bill. So we have to have that completed. And then, of course, the other thing is we have to address the gaps in the data, and also we also have to identify the issues as it relates to the barriers. And so the aforementioned possible committees that I said was to do exactly that. Again, it can be all of those, it can be more, it can be less. I just kind of wanted us to spend the next couple minutes talking through the possible ways that we will attack this work. And I'll open it up for anyone to comment.
Okay, so we're looking at the possibility of setting up committees. Is there anyone that, of the things he mentioned, that you're just dying to jump into? Let's start there.
Could I just ask Dakota, did you add, I'm just looking at the scope of the committee, and there's also outreach and education. Did you mention that as a possible one? And if I missed it, I apologize.
Oh, yes, ma'am. So, yes, Beth, I mentioned that with recruitment and outreach.
Okay.
Yep, but exactly right. Yep, that's exactly right.
Could I suggest that, given the few minutes we have, maybe the chair and you can get together, really form some committee, let us sign up in email or other ways, electronically. Yeah. So with that time, you have time to put your thoughts together. We have time to put our thoughts together.
Yeah. Is that good with you, Madam Chair?
That works for me.
Okay, okay, excellent.
So you and I will be in contact next week, early.
Oh, yes. Very, very early. Now, I will also say
Otherwise,
this.
you and I are the committee.
Oh, no. That's a very dangerous thing.
Yes, it is.
And so, again, per the Senate bill, we are to meet at least quarterly. So it doesn't have to say that we have to wait quarterly. We could meet every week, but that probably would be taxing. However, if we want to satisfy what is written in the bill, I have tentatively, and again, if that works with the chair, we could all convene again on Friday, May 1st. Now, I know that that may be towards the end of the spring semester in terms of commencement and things of that nature, but that it would technically be the last day that we could meet to satisfy the quarterly requirement. So it can be as late as May 1st. It can be as early as Monday. Just wanted to open.
We have exactly 7 months from now until you want this report for the board review.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm wondering if we top load meetings, and then we can assign things to get written, because right now we're kind of in a formative stage. Whoa.
I was going to suggest that we meet earlier.
Okay.
Speaking on behalf of my students, or our students, because that's the first day of exams. So if we could back it up into April, it would be better for us. Yeah, okay. So maybe
April
sometime
works
in
for me.
April, would that work?
Sometimes in April, okay.
Maybe early mid-April.
But I
Early
also-
to mid-April?
I just wanted to build on what Amy said. I think first, I would just try to think about how many times you think the group needs to get together to achieve the goals of the report.
Yeah.
And if it is 2 meetings, then that's quarterly between now and September. If we think we should meet 4 times, then we have to pick we have to be a little more aggressive with the dates.
Okay.
I agree.
So would you prefer, folks, I'll just ask us to meet as early as in March? Okay.
I think so.
Usually the middle 2 weeks are spring break for people, so would we want to meet like, are Fridays best for most folks? Does it matter? Huh? They're better for you? I think for, okay, so what about like March 6th?
Yeah, I was gonna say, and so of course all of our meetings have to be broadcast, and
Oh, okay.
that can only be
Okay.
accommodated in this room. And so if we can know, almost like a range in a sense,
Right, okay.
we'll be able to check with our calendar to
Okay.
see if
Could we do a
if we're
do the
free.
poll by someone?
Yeah, yeah, we can do a poll. Yeah.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yep.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yep.
We,
But it sounds like March. We're
may
saying
we
this, okay.
also meet again in May, because summer's harder to meet at, and we really do need to get started. March
Yeah, I
and
think
May.
we just set the dates when we figure out this next one.
Okay.
And then set the dates. But yeah, I think we're going to need a couple before September.
And so here's what I'm hoping that I can do with the chair. We could discuss all of the dates so that you all will have them. And of course, we will have to reserve this space. And again, we don't always have to meet in this space. We can do it over the phone as well. And then when we have the committees, a lot of the work can also be done at the committee level. And so we could perhaps in the next week or so send out dates and possible committees. And if you have any suggestions on the committees, because again, I think I gave a list of a few, but if you didn't hear something that you think that you should hear, please feel free to recommend that to the chair, and
And
it's going to
can
be up to
she
her.
help us do some type of an email that will allow people to sign up? Would you be able to do that, to sign up for committees? Yeah. Okay.
Okay, perfect. That's fantastic. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Gotcha. I was just going by Senate bill. I'm a stickler for the rules. I don't know if you all know that or not, but I really just, I say whatever is written. But yeah, exactly. We can do. Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of different things we could do. So that's fantastic.
I like you already. My goal is to, when I'm involved in something, to figure out the rules and not get slapped. So
Yeah, no,
appreciate
listen, I do not look good in orange, so I always say that. So is there any other parting statements that needs to be made? Again, on behalf of the coordinating board in the state, I just want to say, again, I really thank you all. We had 100% attendance. I don't think that happens at a lot of things, and so I can tell that you all are very passionate about this work, and I am excited about your passion. I will give the last words to our presiding officer.
I just want to thank again, like he said, everybody for coming and being so attentive. I know sometimes these meetings go really long. I also wanted to thank your support staff who did lunch, and it was a very good lunch, and thank you for that, and for just the note-taking. And infrastructure is imperative, so thank you for being here and helping us with this.
Yes, thank you. Anyone on the phone would like to make any other comments as well? We still have a couple people on the phone.
Thank you for being
There you go. Okay, well,
I
we're.
would like to thank Dakota here. You have just putting on,
thank you.
coordinating this. You're doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Of course, I could not have done it without Ms. Foos, Ms. Horn, and Mr. Matoyer. So I'm going to adjourn this meeting at 2:04, and I will look forward to communicating with you all with the presiding officer as well. So thank you all.